Welcome to episode 169 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast.
It was so quiet because you had us muted.
I didn't want y'all messing up my intro with coughs and sniffles and sneezes and all other noises y'all make.
Find them.
How's it going? We're back to our regular day, regular time.
I'm tired.
Fucking hot.
Regular bat channel.
Oh, it's been good. I know our child doesn't have any obligations, so we're here on Tuesday.
Yes. Make sure I pull up my blurb. We're going to go ahead and we'll get some sponsor stuff out of the way.
We can. If you're looking for a high quality PVC rack, look no further than Lone Star Reptile Racks. They offer a variety of sizes for snakes, geckos, rats, and more. You can even order something custom. Shipping is available, or you can plan to pick up at a Hertz Reptile show near you. Visit lsreptileracks.com to reach out to Lone Star Reptile Racks today.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I was looking for the script the whole time I did that. I'm very proud of myself. I only messed up one time.
Also, Little Shop of Horrors is a small feeder and pet supply business based in San Antonio, and they regularly schedule feeder meetups around San Antonio as well as other neighboring towns and cities. They offer shipping on their feeder insects, isopods, and are working on starting shipping on their feeder rodents too. All feeders are raised on a nutritional diet that optimizes the health of the reptiles and amphibians that consume them. If you're interested, go back on it's probably four episodes ago is when we had Little Shop of Horrors on. We had Lewis on, and we talked to them about how he feeds his rodents and his feeders and all.
It was a good episode. We learned a lot.
Yeah. Let's go back and take a listen to that. Let's go ahead and look at herp dates coming up. We've got one coming up this weekend, right? Yep. That's this weekend. Lake Charles. Again, we haven't been to Lake Charles in 3-4 years, forever. We haven't been there forever since Mother Nature decided to hate Lake Charles and tried to wipe it off the face of the map. But we are going back.
And it said, not today.
There's a whole town full of blue tarps for like a year and a half.
Still is.
I was going to say, there's still a lot.
You still drive by there, and it's like a bunch of dilapidated blue tarps, kind of like most of Lake Charles.
Sean Gray's in the chat. It's been 2019 since we've been there. So since before COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while, but we are back June 3rd and 4th this weekend in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And then the week after, we are in Conroe, Texas, June 10th and 11th. I think Lake Charles, Katie and I are probably going to come over Saturday for the day.
Say, we'll just be there Saturday. Robert will be there all weekend.
Be there all weekend.
We'll just be there Saturday.
Go get your racks and cages and all sorts of knickknacks.
We'll have a bunch of acrylic stuff too.
Yes.
Cool.
Get your acrylics. And then Conroe, we will be at Conroe. That is the week after. All of us will be there.
Sorry.
I was just fondling his microphone. Still fondling.
He's trying to adjust it so he can still see the box.
So I've been listening to this book. I have this Western writer that I like, and every time a new book comes out, I download it. And he has a character in the Nighthawk, and that's his entire line in the whole book. That's how he speaks. And then one of them is like, "Oh, really? Yeah, you want to go over there and kill those guys? Cool."
So all of us are back in Conroe June 10th and 11th. We will be recording there. So
yes,
come by and say hi.
Our goal is to get enough recordings to do 2 episodes. One for the following week, which is going to be June 13th, because I will be in New York. Mm-hmm. And then the week of the 4th of July.
Yes.
That's the plan.
That is the plan. That's a minimum of 6 interviews.
And then you guys only have to figure out what you're doing without me for 1 week at camp instead of both.
I have starting this weekend. Let me see.
So you're crazy busy.
1, 2, 3. No, that's May. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 shows in the next 9 weeks.
Yep.
You got this.
And then 2 in August.
Your microphone is way far away from you.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's so much better.
Sean says we need to interview Lori at Conroe.
Lori
runs away from the microphone every time we try.
Although that would be a good Sunday afternoon at the end of the weekend.
Depends on our weekend.
What if we schedule her for Sunday morning?
She was early last time. Last time.
Herb's Fenders will get that one.
She got there before I did.
So come see us 2 weeks at Conroe. Then June 24th and 25th is the Shreveport, Louisiana show. Robert will be there. Go by, say hi to him if you're coming to the Shreveport show. If you can't make it to Conroe, again, that is the show to go to. Oh, no, I'm thinking it's Slidell. Shreveport is the first time it's taking the place of Longview, Texas. Yeah, so come out to the Shreveport show. That's North Louisiana, for those that think all of Louisiana is New Orleans.
It is not.
It is not.
Basically, none of Louisiana is New
None of us. I had a friend
There's
once.
Louisiana, and then there's New Orleans.
I had a
It's its
friend
own
once who was
entity.
on an elevator somewhere up north, and he overheard two guys talking, saying they were flying into to Shreveport, into Louisiana for the weekend for something. They're flying in Shreveport, and they thought they would go down to New Orleans for the day.
That's
I
a
mean, you could
that's a
drive down there in the
5-hour
day.
drive
Yeah.
from Shreveport.
Or more.
Yeah, it's probably 5
It's
6.
well, it's 3 hours from.
Yeah, and then two. Yeah, so
Alexandria
it's
and 2
about
hours.
it's a rough 5-hour drive though.
Yeah.
Anyway, Shreveport is 24th,
Boring
25th.
5-hour
Slidell is July 22nd, 23rd. Again, if you can't make it to the big Conroe show, Slidell is the next biggest show. That's a really good show down there in Slidell. Go see
We
that.
may try to make that one.
It's during the summer.
I'll be home. That's
It's cool.
the
Y'all
week-
haven't been to a Slidell show
in a
like,
It's been a
long
while.
like 2 years now. Since
Yeah.
I moved here.
It's been a while.
because it always happens like while school is happening,
Right.
and that's a long drive for us to make on a Sunday night to turn around and go to school on Monday morning.
Do you want a long drive? The next show is the Oklahoma City show, July 29th and 30th.
Touche.
Yes.
That is a long, long drive that we will not be making. But if you are up that way, definitely go to the Herb Show July 29th and 30th. Then down to Corpus Christi, August 12th and 13th. Over to Bryan College Station, August 19th and 20th. And then back to Conroe, September 9th and 10th.
You know, I can honestly say this. If I never drive to Oklahoma again, it'll be too soon.
Bob's Balls will be vending the Slidell show.
That's exciting.
That'd be cool. So
Hmm.
go by and see Bob's Balls. Tickle Bob's
No,
Balls.
no.
Because, you know, there's
no.
if there's one thing that all shows have been missing, it's ball pythons.
Mhm.
That's they're definitely running low on ball pythons. So get out there and help those ball python breeders. There's so few of those ball pythons. Also, if you are looking for UVB LED light bulbs, check out VivTech and use code Gumbo22 to save 15%. Go do it. We're running 1, 2, 3 VivTech bulbs in this room alone, 2 bulbs in the room next door. Robert's got a couple of bulbs at his house.
Yep. That's fact.
We have a VivTech bulb downstairs in the kitchen. They're all over the place. We have an extra
Gonna have
one.
a couple more in the kitchen after we go get my box turtle
Once
from
we
the
go-
classroom.
That's true. After we get your animals, so check out VivTech. Sean Gray, I may not be a ball python breeder. I have eggs, but they are shriveling up like crazy. I don't know what the fuck to do with them. That's why I like boas. They take care of all the hard work.
balls are shriveled?
My balls are not my balls. My balls are fine.
No, okay.
They are nice and plump and healthy. My eggs are shriveled.
Yeah.
I got shriveled eggs.
But they haven't changed colors yet.
They have not changed color. They're still bright white.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't done shit to them, other than just keep the humidity high. We'll see what happens. I'm thinking if I miss anybody. Did I
If
miss
they
anybody?
don't stink, don't toss them.
I'm not.
Good
Thanks.
advice.
Thanks,
good
John
advice.
I am keeping them until they go rotten. I still have about a month until they are ready to hatch. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. But my boas,
I guess so,
yeah. My boas are good. I tried to feed them. I fed them for the first time this last week, and 9 out of 15 ate.
Which is really good.
It's pretty good. I pulled some mice before we started the podcast. They should be thawed out by the time we're done. I'm gonna try and feed them again. So anybody that's never bred, this is what you do. So not all your baby's gonna eat right away. Don't thaw out a whole bunch of mice to have to throw some away. So look, 9 ate last time. I thawed out 9 mice. I will try and feed the ones that didn't eat this last time first. And if they eat, then I'll thaw out more. If they don't, then I'll move on to the others. That way I don't waste
That's
mice.
a great
Just
plan.
Uh,
Why is it that you always thaw out mice to feed snakes like the 1 or 2 nights a week that I'm like, hey, you should come cuddle with me while I fall asleep?
I plan that on purpose.
You're an ass.
Anal Side Exotics
That
says,
doesn't always lead to forking.
No.
did y'all mess?
Especially when
You
you've
did it the
been
first
I'm
day.
to the
trying.
beach all day.
Gonna mute y'all. Canal
Hey, don't be a
Side
fucking tyrant now.
Exotic said, did y'all mess with Robert's mic? Still sounds like it's off. The last recording, it sounded good. Yeah, no, I don't. We changed chords. I don't know. The recording sounds great. So if you're listening live, Robert's just gonna sound like shit for y'all. I can't help
We
it.
apologize.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It must be the mic.
Oh,
I
that's
could
the only
change-
thing we haven't changed.
Y'all-
Change the mic.
Y'all talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, well, can we?
Well, I can't talk because I'm about to turn my mic off.
No, you're so good. Keep going.
I don't know what to say, James. You can't.
Jesus Christ, come on.
on.
You can't shut up most times.
So we
You went to the beach today.
went to the beach today. I drove down to Galveston with 4 children, and we went to the beach, and it was probably the most exciting and calmest beach trip we've ever had, except for whatever stung me in the back of the leg. That can go to hell and die.
That would be a jellyfish.
I don't know. Robert said something else.
Metamorphs.
Another type.
Well, it's not jellyfish, but it's related. It's a colony of organisms. But you would have seen a man of war is going to float near the
I
surface.
didn't see anything in the water.
Ready?
Almost.
But it's okay.
We're unplugging. This is great radio. You're gonna hear. We're unplugging the microphone. Hold on, let me give you.
I don't know why we didn't think to try this beforehand.
Because we're dumb, smart people.
We're dumb, smart people. I
let's see how it
was in the
works.
sun for 3 hours today and then drove an hour there and an hour back. So I can use that as an excuse.
Is your mic turn on?
Not
Hang on,
yet.
hold on. Maybe we're waiting.
Yeah, it's on.
All right.
Is that better?
And then
Someone let us know. If not, then I don't know.
Okay, but the good thing with Canal Side Exotics is they said they listened to the live and the recording.
Way to go. See,
So, because I was asking James before the podcast tonight, has any of us listened to the recording to make sure Robert sounds
Better.
good?
It's the
that's
mic.
better. It's the mic. Oh,
Sweet.
son of a bitch. These
That's
things
not
aren't
good,
cheap.
though.
I wonder if it's the.
Maybe
I don't know.
it just
I'll play
needs
around
to
with
be cleaned. Yeah,
What
our
clean-
guest is
what are we
here,
gonna
though.
clean?
I don't know.
There's
We're
nothing.
getting Rob's here.
Okay, hold on. Okay, we got all the sponsor stuff. We're good.
I think so.
Yes, sir.
We're ready.
Sure.
I've been ready. I'm born ready.
Born ready. All right, let's go ahead and bring in our guest. Robert, do you want to introduce him?
No, you can.
Rob Cope, who is a reptile and amphibian board veterinary specialist. He told me earlier. And I
Let him-
fucked up. Yeah, I'll let him do it. Rob, introduce yourself.
That was horrible, Lewis.
How you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you for joining us.
Hey, no problem at all.
You tell him
So,
more.
so you want to go? You want me to go start with the story how I got here? Then that way I can kind of explain all the specialty stuff you kind of mingled.
Sure.
That works.
So, actually, I graduated vet school in '96. So I've been out for a couple years, and I went into private practice and just regular vet clinic, small animal exotics. Of course, I already had a interest in reptiles quite a bit, and already got the bug and the disease of collecting everything you can shove into your house. After a few hundred reptiles, I had to condense down a little bit, as most of you guys well know. Yeah. Then I decided that I wanted to take it to a new level, so I actually went back to school and did an internship and residency. Internship at K-State and residency at Oklahoma City Zoo. Then decided to come back home to Texas. So I've been pretty much the head vet at the San Antonio Zoo for the past 21 years.
Dude, that's awesome.
Right.
Katie and I have experience. We both used to work at zoos before. I was a zookeeper. She worked in the education department at the Alexandria Zoo in Louisiana.
Yep. We sent stuff there a long time ago. So
I'm pretty sure that our vet staff hated me because they only ever saw me when I was like, hey, I'm bringing a group in for a tour. Get ready to talk to kids. And then they would just tolerate me. And I'd bring them cookies when we were done. So it was a fair trade-off.
That's the fun part. Get to hang out with the kids and tell them what you do. That's the fun part.
Yeah, we had one who loved it and she was great at it. But then like the zookeepers that would come in to help and assist, they were not super happy around small children.
That was great.
You were phenomenal. You were really great.
Fake it till I make it.
But we had a few that were like, could you please just do all the talking for me and I'll just stand here with the animal? And I'm like, sure. So.
My only like good zoo vet story, I said good, was I held cancer-ridden ovaries from a jaguar in my hands during a surgery. That was about it. And then we put them back in and sewed her back up, and the vet was like, yeah, there's nothing we can do. She's gonna die soon anyways. And she lived like another year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
it happened.
It was gross. It was just giant, like clear, bubbly polyps across the entire inside of her body. It was, but no, she horrified me. She was always one of the ones that she ever got out. I was like, she's gonna kill me.
She was the only cat that I was genuinely afraid of when we had to do like drills or whatever. And I'm like, please don't use her for the drill. Like, I know it's fake and it still scares me. Like she was a black jaguar. She like had these eyes that were just would tell you, I'm going to end
I felt like
miserably.
I was never really afraid of our lions. I felt like our lions, if you left the door open, were too stupid to figure that out.
I got to go in the enclosure one time.
With what?
Well, not like in the enclosure, but I got to go.
Not then it'd be cats.
No. But I got to go into the back where the keeper area was.
Yeah.
So you're in. You go through a door that locks, and then you go through another door that locks, and then you're in a cinder block building, and there's just a cage between you and the lion, and that was terrifying for me because I'm like, that door I can't get out of. If something happens, I'm screwed. And
yeah.
Our zookeeper was like, "You're gonna be fine. I do this every day, twice a day. You are safe." And I'm like, "I'm not safe.
Just don't walk up next to the bars. You're good."
Yeah, that's what she said. She's like, "Just stay over there." I was like, "Okay."
They can't phase through the bars. You're good.
Yeah, because after I got to play tug of war with that female lioness years ago, bro, that gives you a whole new respect.
I played tug of war with a full-grown tiger.
Yeah.
He sat down, and I could not move him, no matter how much
there were
I
like
yanked.
9 of you.
But
So there was 4 of us, and we were all like just out of college, football player size guys, and she just like took a step back and pulled us on, and then just turned her head. And when she just turned her head, it like pulled us off.
Kumar just sat there.
Theirs was glass.
You gotta do something.
I got a dangler.
Pull that. I'm gonna mute you while you do that. Yeah, the tiger was great until he kept moving us closer and closer, and I realized I was about to be at the bars, and there was still a female tiger in there. She could have reached me, so that's when he officially. Oh nope,
You did it. All right, you're good now.
You're good now.
Yeah, let me get that on the way because I kept getting it.
Okay.
So do you ever get to do fun stuff like that as a vet, or do you just have to do the vet stuff?
Well, I mean, I do the vet stuff too.
That's fun stuff.
Of course, our former female mom tiger, she hated me. I guess she was still mad because I took her babies away to give them their vaccines when they were cubs, and I was, it wasn't that big a deal. But I guess after a few times, and even after several years, she used to try to kill herself, beating herself against the cage mesh to get to me. So I was banned from the keepers from that part of the tiger holding area. They would not let me go back there.
See, that's
had it out for me.
That's familiar for me. So our white tigers are male for some reason, and I never worked with the tigers ever. And after I left, I would come back to the zoo and visit. The female tiger from that point on hated me. If I turned my back, she'd come roaring, slamming up against the glass, the bars. Like I'd have to leave the whole area because obviously there's visitors there seeing that. And I'm like, oh, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Because the problem was the male loved me. He'd come up to the glass, jump up on it, and like rub and purr and do the whole thing. Yeah, the female hated me. So I think it's just female tigers. They're bitches.
Once they hit a certain age, maybe that's what it is.
She's senile. Maybe they just go senile.
Maybe.
I never took her babies from her, so she just hated me. So I don't have that excuse. She just despised my guts. So I had a lot of folks when I said you were going to be on here. A lot of folks were super excited, and I feel bad because I don't know a ton about what you've done in the past, and I definitely could have like researched it, but that doesn't fit our podcast at all. So
you did research.
I researched one. Well, I did see that you were on the SSP, the vet for the SSP for Komodo Dragons.
Yep, I've been an advisor for I forgot how long now, 10 years now or so. So
yeah, he pretty much got super excited about that, and then
we've had a pretty good success with Komodo Dragons. Breeding and raising the little ones. So that just great because I can get to communicate with all the different ones across the country, all the different vets and keepers. I've talked to the vets in Europe as well. So it's pretty neat to take a species like that and be able to share everything. So
how many Komodos do y'all have there?
We have, I think, got a few kiddos left over, 4 or 5 now, I believe.
I love Komodo Dragons.
They're fun.
I've had friends that have gotten to go in with some at certain places and like touch them. I'm like, that'd be the coolest thing. I just want to touch a Komodo dragon just once.
Well, our male, he had arthritis, and we were doing acupuncture on him every few months for like 6 years. So we went in there free contact pretty much the whole time. Now, of course, he was taped, but did all the safety protocols. But he was pretty mellow and pretty good to get acupuncture.
All right, so who talks the zoo into doing acupuncture on a giant lizard? It just doesn't seem like
What was it? Can you tell us what it was for?
Well, it's arthritis.
Arthritis, yeah.
But my thing is, I'm just thinking like if you had older keepers or even like an old school vet who'd be like, "Oh, that's not the way to fix this." So obviously, your vet staff is open to different ways of fixing things. I'm just wondering how that talk comes up. You're like, we're gonna poke needles into this lizard until he feels better.
It was my idea because I'm also certified in veterinary acupuncture.
That's awesome.
I
So
didn't know that was a thing.
We used to have our horse. We used to have our horses a lot.
Yep.
That helps.
and
chiropractic work.
And Komodo dragons respond extremely well, just like horses do. Not every animal species responds, but he responded extremely well. Others across the country has had it done also do respond. So I know it sounds crazy, but I do cheat a little bit. We do put electric current between the needles, so it gets a more potent type of stimulation in there to help with pain modulation. And he responded really well, and that kind of sold it to the keepers, my boss. Everybody was like, "Wow, this really did work." And we're talking about quality of life changes. Does he need to be euthanized because he was very stiff and sore?
Oh, wow.
And he went in another 6 years.
That's awesome.
We did a couple other things. We've done some stem cell therapies. We did a special, it's not radioactive, but it's like a ionizing tin that we put into the joints to help kind of sort of kill off the inflammatory cells. So fortunately, he eventually did pass away, but he was one of the oldest ones in captivity. So I think we did good by him.
So
life.
So that's interesting because I know, things may have changed now, but I know historically sedating reptiles is not the way to go because it's not always the best for reptiles. So how do you, I guess, convince a Komodo dragon to let you basically put electricity through needles into his body without him lashing back out at you? Or did y'all actually sedate, or did you wrap him up? How's that work?
Never sedated.
Oh, wow.
So, it's kind of, I don't know if you've ever had acupuncture done yourself, but it, when you put the needles in, especially if you have a painful condition or you have a problem that's going on, and when you put those needles in, you don't really feel it so much. I mean, it's a pinprick, and the needles are super tiny. They're not like IV needles or injection needles like you've seen. I mean, they're not hollow point. They're fine tipped point. They're super thin.
Yeah.
Like 0.15 millimeter. I mean, they're tiny. So when they go in, I mean, they'll feel it, but once you put on some of that electrical stimulation there, I mean, they'll go, woo, what's going on? But then you will see after a minute or so, relaxation, just kind of chills in there. And then he eventually just kind of start walking around. So I just follow him with electrical leads and a little box and just kind of follow. And he basically told us what he needed. So there'd be times where he would say, "No, I'm done," after say 15 minutes, or he'd go, "I need 20." I watched his behavior, so it was pretty neat, and I was pretty honored to be able to be a part of his therapies.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's not something you don't think of acupuncture on a giant lizard.
So I've never had acupuncture done before, but I know people who have, and they say that the relief is so outstanding that it truly just outweighs all of the pain and even the minuscule discomfort from the needles themselves. So if humans can explain that when they get acupuncture done, obviously it's got to be outstanding to be able to watch an animal relay that through behavior and changes and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting to see the responses each therapy session.
So how did you get into animal acupuncture?
Well, I'm also zoo boarded. As a specialist, I'm actually boarded in zoo medicine. That was part of my training originally. Of course, I'm a herp guy, so I mean that I did the reptile portions of that exam. But then a couple years went through 2010, I decided to go back and do a second specialty, and that's where my reptile and amphibian specialty came in. Because what the hell, I need one. If you got one, why not two? Then about 2015 or so, then I got the acupuncture part of it, just because I kind of had someone who kind of exposed me to it. One of my classmates, we treated a Brazilian paper that was the oldest ever in captivity, and we would treat him with it, and he responded. It was just amazing. Just watch. It's like, I mean, it's more than just a placebo effect. I mean, he actually responded to the therapy. So my boss at the time wasn't very keen on it, but then new boss and just new style and timing and everything. So I was able to pursue the courses that were here in San Antonio at the time. Then did on the Komodo Dragon, and that was just that pretty much solidified. Okay, we can do this.
That's so cool.
Sean Gray asked if he could stick needles in my face at Conroe. No, Sean. No, you can't. The Reddies over.
If he wants to stick his needles in his own face, that's up to him.
I'm all for sticking needles in Sean's face. That sounds like a good weekend. The Reddies asked, how long did the Komodo live? What was his total age when he passed?
20, like say 25, 20. So I've drawn a blank right now. It's like 26, I believe.
That's awesome.
It's an old lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to the Houston Zoo yesterday. My brother and nephew are in town. And so we took him, he's 7, and my daughter, who's 12, we went to the Houston Zoo yesterday, and he loved the Komodo Dragons. But I also think that has a lot to do with the fact that Uncle James loves the Komodos so much, and he would get super excited when James would get super excited at an exhibit, and it was so fun to watch.
Did Katie tell you we ran into her at Walmart last night? This one I did.
Yeah, she told
Yeah,
me.
She told me how excited you were with the Fiji banded iguana.
The
Oh
Fiji
my gosh.
Yeah, so anybody, the Houston Zoo now has Fiji banded iguanas, and for us in the U.S., we can't own Fiji banded iguanas because of stupid fucking laws. But in Canada, they can. Fucking Canadians. So walking through, I looked up, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's a Fiji!" Because they didn't have it last time we were there.
Now, they had quite a few new things on exhibit in the reptile building. That was pretty
It
cool.
was the only one I paid attention to. Well, their beaded lizard was finally back on exhibit. And it is massive.
Yeah.
But the Fiji banded iguana is the coolest one. They also, for anybody who hadn't been to the Houston Zoo, they opened up the Galapagos exhibit, which I have to say, this is the first time we saw it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Is a great exhibit. It is.
I can't wait to see it.
The only part that sucks is that because it's Galapagos, they can't basically have most of the animals from the Galapagos there because they're all super protected. So they had like the blue caiman iguanas on exhibit, and then it had a sign explaining why they don't have marine iguanas because they can't.
Ask
Well,
surprised
someone, that the zoo can't get those.
So
Galapagos are strict on those.
Yeah.
Like when you go to
Yeah.
go to visit, you can't touch stuff.
Well, of course not.
Now, if you could find one, like if you could find a zoo that was working on a breeding project, and then that breeding project could be possibly given to another facility, then you might luck out.
Well, that's how they all
some.
get their Galapagos tortoises. We have
Right.
plenty of them. in captivity.
But what I loved the most, and one of the things that I did in the education department at the zoo, was the signage that you would see around. I would help with the writing, and I would help with editing for all the signage. And the signage in the Galapagos exhibit is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, like
It
they
is
had
so educational, and it's all very short and sweet and to the point. It's not anything too long, so you don't feel like you're standing there forever reading a paragraph. It's just really a great.
Like they had Humboldt penguins because they couldn't get Galapagos penguins,
Right.
but it's closest relative. They don't have Galapagos sharks, but they did have like bonnethead sharks and black reef sharks and a cool big saltwater tank. Their sea lions got a new exhibit. Like it's a trillion times better than
Yeah, it was a swimming pool for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The new sea lion
I
exhibit
mean, it
is
was the same thing for my whole life growing up.
well, you can see it from multiple places. There's one.
Oh, you don't have to stand right over the top.
No,
Down now?
there's a
There's
seating.
a stadium.
there's a stadium
where you
seating
can
area.
do programs.
There is
Cool.
another inside area that they can come up and like they were splashing glass, and then there's a tunnel. You can
You
watch
go
it swim
through.
over you.
Wow.
And they
They've done a lot of upgrades there last year. They did the big gorilla exhibit a couple years ago, and then they did the Pantanal.
Yeah.
I
And then
can't
they
ever
did
say it
the
right
Texas native exhibit.
Well, in the area where the flamingos are, that's behind
That's
like all this,
under construction.
that's under
right
construction now. They closed that off, and they're so. There's a lot of cool things going on there at the Houston Zoo too.
Well, let's talk about San
Yeah,
Francisco.
I'm saying. So one thing I don't know if y'all still have them. It's been a while since I've been to San Antonio. Y'all used to have the giant salamanders. Do y'all still have those?
We do not currently.
Oh,
I know they're awesome to work with. So I got to work with them for quite a few years. So it was pretty cool.
What is the temperament on a giant? Because that mouth is horrifying. It can fit your head in there. Those things is huge.
I would not want to get bit by one of those. It's good. They can have some power in there, but naturally they were pretty mellow for the most part. Until you try to grab them, then of course they try to get away. But beyond that, they're just kind of like hellbenders and everything else. I mean, they're just kind of sort of just do their own thing until you mess with them.
Just gotta imagine to try and grab one. It's just gotta be very hard to hold on to because I imagine they are strong.
Oh yeah, they're super strong.
How big do they get?
Like 4 feet.
Mhm.
Like there's some of the basis for dragons, like the myth of dragons in parts of Asia. Because there's two, right? There's the Japanese and Chinese. There's two different giant salamanders, right?
Yeah, and the Andreas complex.
You're looking with the
I am looking them up. I Google a lot on our show because I don't know a lot about the
Yeah.
stuff we talk
If you
about.
watch the Joe Rogan podcast, she's the Jamie of this group.
they're like because hellbenders. So our zoo has a hellbender. Hellbenders are impressive. I mean, you're talking 2 foot long.
That actually just popped up as part of the giant. That's the giant salamander of the U.S.
Yeah, it's a 2 foot long salamander that lives in rivers and creeks and all. But the hellbenders, I mean, the giant salamander is way more impressive. I mean, it's the size of a small person. So
They had freaking Tone Loc at their zoo.
at San Antonio.
Yeah. For a zoo Taste of San Antonio.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
He was I guess it's supposed to be a salamander in Fern Gully.
Oh, he was
That's
the.
a perfect voice.
That's
Yeah.
right. He was the.
It wasn't really a bad
No,
guy because he ended up not eating the guy. But
That's true.
Thanks for the spoiler.
we watched.
Sorry to spoil that movie from 1992.
30-year-old movie. We watched it in class for Earth
I hate to
Day.
ruin it for you now,
Watch that tonight when I got home.
Jeez.
guys.
I will spoil it for you.
Jeez.
The
You can rent
rainforest.
it on Amazon.
The rainforest does
You
eventually
see that,
lose.
you know exactly which band that is instantly. The Spasmatics.
I don't know
Oh,
that.
you don't know?
So no, I don't know.
I
instantly.
did.
We watch Fern
They
Gully
do
every
some
year in
fun
my
stuff at the
class
San
for Earth Day.
Antonio Zoo.
The Reddies want to know: do you have many chameleon species at the San Antonio Zoo?
We don't have a whole lot. We have, I think, one carpet, couple of veils. That's about it.
You don't see carpets very often. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's not, you don't see them very much in zoos. We got a lot of other stuff. We have a huge collection, just not very many chameleons, unfortunately. Well, at least for me, because I love chameleons. So,
Yeah. Well, we have a picture of you with our chameleon, who's now
We do.
up in the corner up there.
So yeah, the famous one.
That chameleons are a tricky one though, because like they only live for such a short period of time. For zoos, like I don't know, I wonder, and then they can be a little trickier to take care of. Now, look, we haven't killed this one, and we've done great, so they're not as tricky as I thought they were like a year ago, thanks to the Reddies.
I am excited to see what happens with the colors when
When
he
he sheds.
sheds. He went on a walkabout a couple weeks ago because I accidentally left the bottom part of the cage unlocked. And then we noticed for like 2 weeks after that, he was just walking around on the bottom of his cage. And then I realized because I saw him actually push on the fence in the front. I'm like, that little butthead knows that's how he got out. And he is trying to escape again.
Oh,
He
there's
hasn't-
more.
yeah, he hasn't done that since that.
Yeah, he's
night.
realized
I
it's now
realized-
locked.
He's realized that it's stayed locked. So now he doesn't go on the bottom anymore. But
Yeah,
when we put him back in, he developed some pink and yellows.
Not just pink, like
They're,
19,
like, highlighted
like early
color.
1990s, like bright pink and yellow, like you would like Saved by the Bell episodes. It's
But we've checked the heat because we were worried about maybe he was getting like some burns from lights and.
I wish I burned and turned like a cool neon pink and yellow and
Oh.
orange.
But I mean, everything's how it's supposed to be, and
Yeah,
God
it's
bless
fine.
the Reddies because Lord knows I message him all the time about panicking and I'm so paranoid. But yeah, he still has them. They haven't gone away, so we'll see what happens after he sheds.
So, do you have how much say do you have in the collection? Are you just there for care? Like, do you have any say if they are going to get something? Do they come to you and say, "Hey, we were thinking about getting this, do an exhibit for this animal," or is it just, "Hey, we got this, now you take care of it"?
Maybe a little bit of both. But no, I'm part of the process a lot of times. I mean, for the most part, it doesn't really, unless it's a high-profile animal or a complex species, or it's an animal that has pre-existing medical conditions. then I get involved in those
Yeah.
as a discussion for how we're going to manage. It's not just like a leopard gecko. If it's something a lot more complex, then we obviously know what we're going to get ourselves into. Is it going to be like something we're going to pay $1,000 a month in medical bills?
Oh, that's a good point.
So so we try to look at those types of things. And the good thing is that if it's here and at the zoo and it's sick and we got to spend money, we do it. I mean, we don't just give up on them. No, we treat them and take care of them for the rest of their life until get to that quality of life point.
Well, and so we mentioned earlier the SSP. For anybody who does not familiar, SSP stands for Species Survival Plan. In zoos, especially AZA zoos, there is the SSP program for almost any animal, a lot of animals. And when they have to breed certain ones, they'll contact other zoos, and they have a stud book for those, and the SSP keeps up with all of that. So I imagine if it's an SSP animal you're getting in, if there's a breeding program, they're probably a reptile at least, they're probably talking to you ahead of time, going, look, we're thinking about doing this, like you said, high profile animal, something that is part of a breeding program.
Was there?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
For those types of situations, it's, we'll take a look at the whole history of the animal coming in. Plus, there's a plan. A lot of times with SSPs, we have these stud books, which is like a giant family tree, because we know we don't want to line breed a lot of species. Sometimes we have to for certain small groups. We don't have a choice, but we try to do the best we can about trying to manage that. They actually have computer programs that figure all that out for you, which is actually really cool.
Oh, that's neat.
All the animals in, and they have the family tree in there. Then it spits out answers of this with this and that with this. So that way we kind of have a better idea, at least from science, what to do. Now, of course, animals don't listen to science; they do what they want. So there's always that problem too. But no, we try to keep the genetics going because we want to keep these populations forever as that assurance colony, as that population that could self-sustain itself. Fortunately, it's a numbers game.
Yes.
So the more animals you start with, the more successful you can be.
I know one of my favorite things I worked at the zoo was the available animals list. My director made a mistake once of giving me that list and go, hey, is there anything on this list you want? If everybody doesn't realize there's animals that zoos have available for trade or even monetary stuff in this case, in some cases, but they've got to get rid of. They don't have space. And on there was Madagascan tree boas, which we had nowhere to put on exhibit. And they were on exhibit for all of a month in our education building until they realized they were not great for exhibit. And then they went back off exhibit so I could play with them behind the scenes. And black-headed python was on that list. Ended up with a black-headed python, so I could play with that behind the scenes. It never went on exhibit anywhere.
It did not hurt the situation, though, that our zoo director at the time was very much a reptile guy, and he hired James.
He was an animal guy in general.
He was, but he had a soft spot for the reptiles, and he had a soft spot for you on top of that.
Yeah, so I got to have stuff that I couldn't own at home.
He hired James under the umbrella of I'm going to mentor you and being able to do that.
And then what a jerk. He died a year later. Just kidding for anybody listening. He did die. That's not. I'm not kidding that part, unfortunately. But he was an amazing man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love the available animals list. That because you could see things like if I'd have seen Fiji banded iguanas on there, you'd have bet we would have had.
Those would have been awesome in my education program. What are you talking about?
I'd have found somewhere for those to go.
They have way too many problems. You don't want those.
I'll take it. I'm always interested in some our zoo has Boland's pythons. I know on the private side of reptile keeping, Boland's pythons is a huge breeding project. People are trying to get those to have babies. And I just wonder. I've never talked to anybody at our zoo, and I don't know if you know anything about what your stuff. But do y'all have any species of snakes or anything at yours or reptiles besides the Komodos we talked about that y'all are really trying to get to breed and having issues with? Or I mean, how much do y'all lean on the private sector for some of that, for help there as well?
Yeah, that's always a big thing. The private sector versus zoos. That's always been one of those debates that people always bring up here and there. One of the things that we're known for in the herpetofauna wise, we do a lot of Mexican montane rattlesnakes. That's something that we've been doing for decades and have great success with. We've done my bosses and the Reptile Care, they've done field work in Mexico, where they're from, and they've actually, brought that back to us, with our breeding program and plans. So that's something that we're known for quite well. We've had a pretty long history with herps in our zoo, with different species and types, but Mexican herpetofauna is probably one of the things that we're best known for. Historically, now our conservation team, they're unique because they're also very reptile and herp based. So that's pretty cool. A lot of different conservation groups at other zoos, mammals, and not that they're bad, but mammals and birds, but ours is very specific for reptile, amphibian, and some of the fish. So they do a lot of karst work where they go into caves and do caving stuff for new species. So they'll find stuff. We do a lot of stuff with the Edwards Aquifer. So we look at the salamanders and the black cave tetras and stuff that we find down in thousands of feet down. We go through and we're working on those species to try to figure out how to breed them and keep them going in captivity so we can learn about their biology. So it's kind of a cool thing that we do. Plus, a few years now, we've been doing Texas horn lizards, which, I grew up in West Texas originally, so I used to catch those as a kid. So, of course, back then it was like these giant lizards that would fit in your hand. And now it's like, oh, you're tiny. So it's crazy growing up, just catch them all the time. It wasn't a big deal. They were all over the place. But obviously now with all the fire ant issues and everything else. But yeah, it's really cool to circle back around and work with those guys again.
It's got to be fun for you when they bring in a new project and it is a reptile or amphibian because,
oh, yeah.
Like I said, look, mammals are fine, but there's enough people out there to love mammals and birds. Like there's reptiles. I'm watching in the background of your screen. But reptiles and amphibians don't tend to have that push for them. And at zoos, it's harder to get people more excited about a blind cave salamander over a giant tiger that we don't want to breed because we have a bajillion of them and we don't need more of them in certain cases. So it's got to be fun when your zoo wants to focus on that kind of stuff.
It's good. We have a great outreach. That whole team gets out into the public, into different groups, and tell their story.
Yeah.
And it's really cool when they tell their stories, and a lot of them do field work as well. So it's like firsthand everything. We're in the field, we're breeding them in captivity, we're releasing them back in the wild. So it's really cool.
So what is your favorite? I'm gonna narrow it down to just one. What is your favorite species at your zoo that you work with? Maybe you don't have to work with because they don't get sick and you don't have to help them, but your favorite one?
Well, my name tag, it says Panther Chameleon, but we don't have any currently. But that
I know where your zoo could get some in case.
I know Lee's on there, so I'm sure he'll chat here in a second. But yeah, no, that by far, I started with chameleons, and that was the hook of the disease right there. That I had dart frogs and fish and all sorts of stuff before and growing up, but then once the chameleon bug hit, that was it. It just went downhill from there.
It seems to be a theme with a lot of people I know.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. So,
well, and the damn Reddies made me realize how easy they are to keep now, and so now apparently I'm a chameleon owner until I die, I guess.
It's all about getting things set up from the start.
Yes.
Proper. And that's the thing that you don't buy it and you just cram it in somewhere. You got to get the stuff. You got to nail down how things are set up, and that's how I approach medicine. By the way, that's the difference between like a regular dog cat vet versus an exotics vet versus say a reptile amphibian specialty vet. We approach things different. When you go to the dog and cat vet, they may ask you what the dog eats. That's about it. Cat is go indoors, outdoors. For me, I'll spend half an hour just talking about husbandry.
Yeah.
I'll go in there and I will try to see if I can tease out, what's going on. Is it, what the problem is? And a lot of times this is even before I touch the animal. I spend a lot of time really trying to delve into what that environment is, what's going on. Look at the, I ask them to bring pictures or videos of their enclosure, so that way I can look at it and see, because nice thing is that being a herper is I've had a lot of stuff over the years. I've kept snakes, lizards, chelonians, off and on throughout, in different species, because I feel like I can't teach unless I know. So I try to really delve into that. I try, I go to different shows as much as I can. I try to get to know a lot of the breeders and get to know them, so I can learn from them, so I can be better vet for them as well. So it's a different approach than most vets. I tried to work with the owner, with the client, with the breeder, and all different levels.
Do you ever find yourself walking around the zoo looking at exhibits for reptiles and amphibians? And I'm not like, you've got a great reptile keeper, and they know what they're doing, but do you ever give your 2 cents here? Like, you see something in an exhibit, you're like, hey, just, you may want to think about this for this species or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty spoiled because my guys are pretty damn good. But I see things. It's like, you stare at the same thing for like every day.
Yeah.
So take someone that's not part of it, they come in and go, well, what about that spot right there? so it's different set of eyes. And I always go to the reptile house, just why not, right? I like going through, take pictures, take a look at stuff, and I just like to see the behavior of the animals. Where they're asking, what they're doing. So I like to look at it from that standpoint too. Sometimes I notice things. I just did a zoo inspection, and I noticed that, we AZA zoos, we inspect each other. And I did a zoo inspection, and I happened to notice that the snake was kind of weird. It was, I'm not going to say the zoo or the species, but it was kind of ball. It wasn't a ball python, but it looked like ball python balled up, and it's not characteristic of that particular species. And it was just off the side, and it just looked weird. So I mentioned it to their team, and they had noticed it, and kind of find out it had a big swollen throat and some other things. So it just looks like it was just starting to come down with something. So it just randomly picked up on it. So, just by walking through and looking at stuff.
Was this part of an accreditation?
Yeah, accreditation team.
Got it.
So just something that, I now, do it with our zoo and stuff like that too. So, just go around looking at stuff, because you got to know what's normal to find out what's abnormal.
Accreditation is always a nightmare. Like, our zoo is fine. It's just, God, the stress leading up to one of those. For me that doesn't know. So if you're an AZA zoo, which is, which most of your better zoos are AZA zoos, because there's certain standards they have to reach. Some of your zoos on the lower end are not AZA zoos. I've been to some, they've got lower standards, but accreditation, they look at everything, like the inside of a light in the keeper area. If there's a cockroach crawled in there and died, like they look at everything. And if you don't have everything right, they'll get you.
That's like when I was a police officer, our department, we did this accreditation through the Texas Association of Police Chiefs.
Yeah.
And it was literally, your boots had to be laced right over left. Every little thing, your patrol car. I mean, they spent like 3 days after we spent months preparing for all the policies and procedures, everything, to get this accreditation that for us really didn't do anything. It just made our chief feel good. But for the AZA Zoo, obviously,
they want, because look, there's
we got a little sticker on our patrol car that's accredited.
People definitely cut corners at places,
sure.
And so you got to make sure that doesn't happen. It was funny. So I've talked about before, we had the Gaboon Viper where I worked, and the rule was don't get bit because there was no anti-venom there.
Right.
So it wasn't don't get bit because it's a venom, but you're probably going to die. I remember the accreditation that I was there for, they didn't get rid of it at that time. They said, hey, get the anti-venom. After I left, they had another one. They came through and they're like, you don't have anti-venom. They took the snake away. And so they couldn't get it back until they got the anti-venom, which they finally did. When it came back, the zoo that I went to, God, they fed it very well while it was gone. It grew like a 1.5 feet. It was about as big around as like a 3-liter Coke bottle. But yeah, it's accreditation. If you're a zoo person, that word makes you nervous sometimes, because you don't want to lose it. You definitely don't want to lose being an AZA zoo, because a lot of those animals that you have at your zoo are there because you're an AZA zoo, and you'll lose them. They will go away.
Oh, apparently somebody got arrested in Maryland for trying to sell some kind of a tree viper.
Oh, nice.
and they're completely illegal in that state. A West African bush viper.
Oh, that's a little. That's the what
There.
Yeah. Why can't I think of what's his name?
Alex?
Alex. That's what Alex breeds.
Yeah.
Little variable bush vipers.
Yeah. Somebody's dumb.
Not somebody. A lot of people are dumb.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to look at our questions that we posted this week. They're both vet related questions. You came up with these, and so I want to go over those and some of the answers that we got from them. One was, let's go with this one first. Do you regularly take your herps to the vet for annual checkups? Why or why not? And across the board, it was pretty much a no. I think a lot of us don't. Most of the people that were on there have like 30, 40 animals, and so they're probably not taking their 30, 40 snakes to the vet for a checkup. But across the board, it was no for that. What is your opinion on regular yearly checkups for people's reptiles?
Well, one thing that is important, and it's more their annual checkup. That's kind of more towards the pet side of things versus the breeder side of things. And I get it. You know, if you have 200 reptiles, I mean, you can't bring them all to the vet immediately. But if you have one bearded dragon, one leopard gecko, one ball python, that could be on a schedule. And I do find stuff on those exams. It's crazy that sometimes, oh look, there's a mass. We didn't know there was a mass. Commonly, I see a lot of former metabolic bone disease dragons, bearded dragons.
Oh yeah, we've owned some of those
that have health issues and later in life.
Yeah.
They have arthritis. They have nerve dysfunction. Seeing different type of issues with mobility, and some of those, the earlier we can get them on pain meds or get them on some sort of a therapy, the longer they can live more comfortably. So those cases, you know, that's where the annual checkup or biannual or 6 months, that's where those kind of come into play. Now, even with breeders, and there's a whole, I know, and I'm not going to convince a lot of the breeders otherwise. And we've all watched the YouTube videos about different reptile personalities doing their own surgeries and their own procedures, which
I'll say it, Kevin McCurley. Just I'll throw it out there.
Which technically it's illegal.
Well, I was wondering
and if you were to do that on a dog, they'd be in jail.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a reptile, so who gives a shit? I do, and you know, a lot of people do, but unfortunately, that makes sensational YouTube videos and monetization and all that fun stuff. So, but that's a whole nother debate on that.
Sorry about that. Our dog was barking downstairs, and I was like, I think my brother just got back, and that's what she was barking at. So that's where I disappeared to. I was trying to get her to hush downstairs.
That brings up, so a lot, and we'll get to the other question too. A lot of it ties into that one, but a lot of reptile keepers do have that mentality of they will take care of the problem themselves. And as someone who's kept reptiles for a long time, there are certain things that can be taken care of. The only problem is if that thing you think you are fixing is not the actual problem. Like if you're like, it's an RI and I'm going to go ahead and just crank up the temperature and the humidity to fix the RI, and that's not the actual underlying issue, then that's where bigger issues can happen down the line because you're not actually fixing what you think you're fixing.
Absolutely. And then in that situation, you could very well be making it significantly worse.
Well, like our boa that we took to the vet, right?
Yes.
It had a mass on its nose. I don't have the knowledge to know what that mass is. And my biggest fear was cancer because I know cancer happens quite a bit in snakes. I've seen it happen to a lot of snakes. And so I took it to the vet, and God, it happened right at the beginning of COVID. So it was expensive as hell. But they removed the mass. They were able to fix it. Unfortunately, she did pass away
Sorry.
about a year after that. But
dinner delivery is here.
Where's my where's my delivery?
I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to mute my microphone as I eat. But with reptiles, I think let's go with the pet side of it, right? A lot of people do get quote unquote pet reptiles with the mentality of it not being a dog, right, or a cat.
And so therefore it doesn't need the same type of veterinary care as a dog or cat.
Well, we see that a lot with the setup, right?
Mhm.
He's talking about metabolic bone disease in bearded dragons. The reason they suffer that the most is because people aren't setting them up properly because they don't think I need to spend $300 for this $50 lizard.
Right.
And so that does lead to issues. So, and I think so there's separate issues here. Another problem is even if it's not a breeder, we talked about it earlier. I bought one thing and then I bought another thing and then I bought another thing and now I've got 20 reptiles. I think in their mind the thought of taking reptiles to the vet on a regular basis leaves once you're at like 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30 of them.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a breeder, even if you're just someone who just likes having reptiles. And so we definitely don't think of them the same as dogs and cats, which is a shame. And I have fallen into that in the 20th years I've owned reptiles. I've definitely fallen into that category at points.
But people also, not to like take away from reptiles or anything, people feel this way about a lot of exotics, like guinea pigs. I had to call like 9 different vets around us before I found someone who was comfortable working on guinea pigs, because I got a guinea pig for my classroom when she was old enough to be able to be away from mom. I got her from a breeder. I actually ended up getting her from the herp store in Bryan College Station. But they, knew who the breeder was and had raised her. So she was like maybe 3 months old when she came to live with me. She got excited one day and hit her eye on her cage and gave herself a stress cataract. And here I am like, oh my God, my 5-month-old guinea pig has a cataract. What is happening? So I paid that $90 vet bill for them to tell me, oh yeah, this happens all the time when they're under a year old. If it doesn't go away in 6 weeks, come back. And then we know that it's not a stress cataract and we can go from there. And I basically had to wait 6 weeks, but it cleared up in 3. And now when it happens, I know what's going on. But yeah, so, and I'm someone who has been around guinea pigs since I was in high school. And I never knew, I've never had a baby guinea pig do that before. But
here's something to throw out. How much did you pay for that guinea pig?
She was $80.
And you pay $80 for that guinea pig.
And I paid $90 just for that vet visit.
And the person down the street or next door paid $0 for that kitten. So technically that guinea pig is worth 800 or 80 times more than that kitten.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Look at it from that way. That's kind of an odd, crazy thought that $100 ball python or $10,000 ball python is still worth more than a free kitten in some ways. I mean, it's weird to think of it that way. We don't think of it that way.
Well, my 3rd graders were like, well, because I noticed one of the kids because they each have jobs to take care of the animals. We've lots of animals in our classroom. My English classroom at that. And so they were like, something's wrong with Penelope's eye. I was like, okay, I'll come look. And so I stopped what I was doing and I went over to check on her. And I was like, okay. I was like, this looks like a cataract, but she's only 5 months old. So we were like talking it out. I said, let me reach out to a couple people that I know with guinea pigs, see what's going on. And all of them were like, at this age, I would take her to a vet because that should not be what's happening with her. I was like, all right. So then the search started. And so like the kids were kept in the loop with all of this. So they knew what was going on. And I'm sure some of their parents thought it was crazy that I was going to take a guinea pig to a vet. But the kids in my room were able to see, okay, when something happens to our animal, this is the step we take to take care of it. This is what we do to take care of it. And, and then after the visit, we came back to school and I told them what the vet had said. And then everybody started watching her like a hawk to see when it was going to clear up. But I mean, my students pick up things on my animals in my room before I do.
So your kids are going to get their 2nd year with most of those animals.
Yes. I haven't said anything about that on the podcast yet. No, that's fine. I'm looping with the kids that I taught last year. So I'm moving to 4th grade and I'm going to have pretty much the exact same roster from last year, with the exception of a couple that are moving into other special classes, which I'm very excited about, which is funny. It's the first time in 11 years I've done this. But they're all very excited. They're going to get to see how much everybody grows over the summer. And then they'll have all.
So there's like no adjustment period on the first day of school for you guys.
There will be a few for me just because I'm sure I'm going to have some new kids in my class that I haven't taught. But no, the majority of them are going to know exactly how I roll. And I actually started an online Google Classroom for summer reading, and a lot of the kids that I taught last year joined it, and they've already started making posts about books that they're reading, and we're only 3 days into summer.
James, you should start doing that. Just stick with the same kids.
That doesn't work as a biology teacher.
But yeah, they're all, and my zoology kids are really excited too because they have gotten, they have really big plans for next year.
My sister, one of my sisters, she was kind of a special needs kid, and she needed some extra help, and she was in a smaller school district, and it really did not. Every year they'd basically start the process over every year.
Mm-hmm.
So when she was in 5th grade, they moved to Clear Creek ISD, and they have a counselor assigned to them that sticks with them until they graduate.
Yep.
That kid she moved up with them every year, because I remember talking to her when my sister was in like 10th grade, and she was like, "Yeah, I basically figure I'll get 2, maybe 3 cycles into my career."
Yep.
And,
we have a district in Louisiana that does that as well. And basically they start with them their freshman year of high school, and they move with that group of kids, everybody that they have that's a freshman, they move with them until they graduate.
I guess she was in 7th grade.
And then they cycle back to
She had
freshman.
them from 7th grade on, but she had been with some of those kids since they were in like 2nd grade.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, they know them probably as good as their parents do.
Yeah, that school only does it for the high school level.
And she would actually reach out there in the summertime and see if there's anything she needed.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I think she probably was successful. The main reason.
Oh, yeah.
That lady helped her a lot.
Are you fixing to mute me?
You ready to talk?
No, I was getting back into our
Okay, come on. Are you done eating? You inhaled that sandwich. Jeez.
Well, why are you eating my fries?
I'm eating the crunchy piece. You don't like those?
I do like those. You just eat
Not
them.
anymore.
Do you feel? I'll tell you what I think. But what do you think is the biggest thing that keeps people from bringing their animals to the vet on a regular basis?
I mean, unfortunately, cost is a factor. I'm not going to lie.
That's my thought.
Veterinary medicine is post-COVID has gone up. And I think a lot of it's because people are used to vets being too generous. And we are. I mean, we're animal people. And I don't want to turn animals away. I don't want to turn owners away. But unfortunately, we're business too.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of moonlighting on the side and work private practice, so I still have my hands in that side of it as well. But costs are going up. If you can just imagine, why is this antibiotic I just got from a pet $60? It was $30 a couple of years ago. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
We buy it from double the price.
Mm-hmm.
COVID, all that, and now I mean everybody's expecting. What do you mean you can't diagnose what's wrong with my pet? Well, it needs a CT scan. Well, those are $300,000-$400,000. Who's going to pay for that?
Yeah.
If that can't pay for it, you have to pass it on to the people that's using it and test. I mean, that $1,200 scan or $2,000 scan. I mean, you got to pay it back. If you can just imagine, I mean, if every clinic bought a $500,000 machine, they're all going to go out of business because because you gotta be able to get the return on investment. It's a business thing. Most people don't look at the vet clinic as a business, but
I don't think they look at medicine in general as a business.
Mm-mm.
They look at it as a
necessity.
Yeah, a necessity. So it should be given.
Yep.
But I mean,
God, we've been fighting with our insurance for prescriptions for diabetes for the last 6 months. So do you see a lot of people that come in that have insurance for their pets?
not as much. Unfortunately, there's a couple of them that will cover some exotic pets, but not as many.
Mm-hmm.
There's some out there. Just it is more difficult to navigate than human medicine. And human medicine is difficult enough as it is. Imagine and pet medical insurance is even worse. If that kind of gives you an idea.
I have a coworker who said something about her dog having to go to the vet, and another coworker was like, "Oh my gosh, is something wrong? How much are those vet bills going to run?" And she was like, "Oh, I have insurance. It doesn't matter." And I was like, wait. Like, you have insurance for your dog?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah.
The dog cat insurance, like you said,
and she was like, we knew we wanted this specific breed. We got it from a breeder. And I mean, she was like, if I'm going to pay $800 for a dog, I'm going to make sure that dog has insurance.
And if it's an actual dog breed, it probably has a health problem.
Oh yeah, it's a little Frenchy.
It's wild. Yeah, definitely. It's wild like mutts.
Yeah. But I was like, I've heard about it before, but I've never actually met someone who has The insurance for your dogs.
I mean, that's why I try to go back to husbandry. A lot of it is,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can prescribe all the antibiotics and medications in the world. I can give them $600 worth of treatments, but if they don't fix the enclosure, I'm just wasting the money.
And they're just gonna get sick again, right?
So that's how I look at it. And it's all the, for at least you have the reptile medicine specialists. I mean, we really are reptile nerds for the most part. So we really go into that husbandry part and really kind of delve into that. And that was I think that's what makes us a little different, unique, is that we try to actually fix the root cause, not just what's coming in the door, but actually the reason why it got there to begin with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the most common pet lizard I'm sure you see as a vet, if you're seeing lizards, is probably beardeds. And I imagine the most common thing you see with beardeds is metabolic bonus. And that's definitely a husbandry thing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, by the point they've gotten to where they need a vet, it takes a while to get them back to where they're functional again. Robert's had that issue. He's had a beard that he brought back to health that couldn't walk at one point. We had one like that couldn't walk at one point.
She definitely lived her best life out with us.
I think I've only ever bought one bearded dragon in my entire life.
The one I have downstairs was actually given to me.
And we've owned like 7.
Bearded dragons will
yeah, I've never bought a sulcata.
But the bearded dragon that I have was given to me as a baby. Like,
yeah, and that one's
this one was like, he was like not very old at all when I got him.
That's the healthiest one we've had.
And he's so funny.
But so I want to get into our other question because it ties into this one, and then there's some comments in the chat I want to bring in, and I want to talk to you about those. But the other question is, what has been your experience with your reptiles and your veterinarian? And there were some very opinionated experiences, and probably rightfully so, because as we get through this, and you'll agree, I'm sure, not all vets are created equal, especially when it comes to reptiles.
No, and some have zero knowledge with reptiles.
A lot have zero knowledge with reptiles.
Did you, because I apologize, I disappeared for a little bit. Did you talk about how your vet in Louisiana was also the vet?
No, I haven't talked about that.
Oh, I didn't know if you talked about that.
No, that's fine. Let's get that. But I want to get to this. So I'll get to some of these answers, and then we'll go through, and then we'll come back and hit on them. But let me read through some. Joshua Silver said, absolutely fantastic. Plus, she's... Yes, didn't read this ahead of time.
I read through the comments. Yeah, I don't know that.
I said, plus she's super hot.
I was just going to say, does he have a hot vet?
Makes me wonder if maybe he's married to a vet.
Or maybe she's just super hot.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's hilarious. I mean, I like going to the doctor when my doctor is easy on my eyes. So why not go to the vet if your vet's easy on my eyes?
I'm hoping later in life I can find a hot female doctor when I have to start having certain
things done.
Just to make it easier on myself.
That was last week.
Because I've had it done once, and it was a guy, and it's uncomfortable. At least if I find someone like our old doctor was like taller than me and big, the person's got to be small with small hands. I'm just saying, at least have small hands.
James, move on.
Ryan Gosso said, brilliant. Every time I've needed to take my reptiles in for a checkup, my vet has always been able to help me. These first two were great answers. A lot of these are not like this.
I haven't looked at any of them. I get the notifications on my phone, but I didn't look at them.
I did go through several of them, though. I didn't go through the first one, apparently. Wally Cunningham said, I've had a veterinarian kill a snake of mine for removing the shed too early without consulting me, which seems like a weird thing to do. But I brought her in to have a checkup on possible RI, respiratory infection, in case somebody's wondering. During the COVID days when we couldn't go into the building.
Oh, that's right.
That was so rough with that one. Without consulting me, he removed the shed while the snake was in blue, which resulted in her demise shortly thereafter. Current vet has more knowledge and has been more conversive with him on stuff. But
so, talking about the COVID days, I thought I was a helicopter mom with like our human child, but when we had to take that snake down to Baton Rouge at LSU's school for surgery, and we weren't even allowed to get out of our car. That was freaking nerve-wracking.
Well, just a lot of trust to put into it.
Like, I don't know people at all.
The reason we went there is they did have reptile experience, so that at least
Correct.
did ease. Like if I had to go drop my snake off at a vet who doesn't have that much reptile experience, and then they're going to do a surgery, and I'm not involved at all, and like I know I'm not a vet, but I have a lot of reptile experience, so yeah, that would have bothered me.
Yeah, we went to Louisiana State University to their exotics vet program
And then we drove around Baton Rouge for 8 hours.
for 8 hours.
We couldn't go in anywhere.
Couldn't go in
Oh,
anywhere.
I remember it.
Yeah,
It
everything
was
was
like
shut. It was the
everything
very
was
beginning.
shut
I got to know
down.
you guys.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
wandered around the campus for a while. We drove around Baton Rouge.
We went through a drive-through to get lunch and then sat in a parking lot and ate it because no restaurants were open.
Mom. Sorry.
No,
You're fine.
no,
I've been
Putting my
watching
whole
them run back and forth, and I'm like, should I say something? Like I'm sure he hears them.
I gotta say something. I don't know Joshua Stover personally. We're friends on Facebook, but I want to know this guy. He's got a freaking sick ass mullet and mustache.
Oh God.
Not an ass mullet, a mullet.
an asshole.
But his tagline, I'm about to read this. Hopefully he hears this when he listens. Is that he's a father, a husband, a pasture-based farmer and forager, and proudly anti-vegan.
I'm proudly anti.
Yeah. I want to know this dude. We gotta go to West Virginia. He calls himself the Herpin Hillbilly.
She just found a new best friend, didn't you?
Maybe.
Did we just become friends?
Yep.
All right. Scott Borden said the first one I ever brought a reptile to was kind of shit. Basically, I was there just to get medication, of which I knew exactly what I wanted, and there was a lot of tension because I wasn't falling for the upsell on species I have 2 decades working with. Luckily, now I have a vet 5 minutes from me, and while she's not an exotics vet, she has experience keeping them and works with me to navigate whatever issue is the treatment. This doesn't work for the pet owner who can't quarterback the medical treatment of their animal usually, but for someone with a lot of experience, it luckily works well. I will say with my original vet in Alexandria, she had a private practice, and then she was like our on-call vet for the zoo because we were a small zoo.
It was before we got a full-time vet on staff.
And so I would bring reptiles to her, and if she didn't know it, she would go look it up and she would figure it out. That was the reason why when we had to have surgery done on the snake, she was not going to do it. That's not her thing. So she had us go down to LSU. But
what was really great about her, though, and what I really loved the most is she would point blank look at us in the room and say, I'm not really sure how to handle this. I need to reach out to a handful of people. I'll give you a call tomorrow. And we'd be like, all right, that sounds good. And she would say, okay, I'm going to call these people they may know or these people they may know. Or like, for example, she called us back and she was like, all right, you need to call the vet at LSU. And at that point, we trusted her enough to say, okay, that's our next step.
And luckily, we saw her right before COVID started. Then we took it down because I got to go in with her, and she had me hold the snake because I knew the snake. Her
sweet little vet techs.
Her little vet techs were dog and cat vet techs. They were not 7-foot boa constrictor vet techs.
It at all.
So,
All right, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Vets are a pain in the ass. All right, we're taught to be confident. We're salesmen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's not because we're trying to get one over on you. It's just that who would you rather go see as a human doctor? Someone that's wishy-washy or someone that knows we need to do this? Or go, well, maybe we could do this. It may not work. We could do that. I don't know if that's going to work. But who would you rather see?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the same thing, and that's us. We have to be the same way because we know it's going to fix your pet.
Right.
But if we're not confident, you're going to go, I don't know. And the pet dies. Whose fault is it? Is it the fault for you not going with what the vet said, or is the fault of the vet by not selling the right treatment? I mean, it's sad to look at it that way, but I mean, that's one way to look at it. My vet friends probably hate me for that, but I mean, we are a pain in the ass in some ways, but I'll be the first person to say, you know what, go see another specialist or get a second opinion. I'm not going to be the one that's going to hinder your treatment of your animal.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing, and that's a human nature thing across the board, is being able to admit when you don't know something.
We've talked about this on multiple episodes.
And for some of these people bringing in a snake, there may be a vet, because again, it is a business, right? And the more people you get in, that's the more money you make. And some vets may go, yeah, I can see your boa constrictor, and they have no experience, but because they need to make the sell and because they feel very confident, they won't say, I don't have the experience or I don't know. They will do things like peel the skin off your snake when it should not be peeled off.
You need 3 clinics. Every pet owner needs 3 clinics for each each type of pet. One is your routine vet, that's your regular preventative health, dogs as vaccines, snakes exams, fecals, things like that. The second one is a specialist, or someone that's your surgeons, your cardiac specialist, your internist, your ophthalmologist. That's your specialty. That's going to take care of the high-end stuff, of more complex things. And the third thing is an emergency clinic, because shit happens at midnight and everything's closed.
Always.
So,
it's always right in.
And people have to get over the price. An emergency clinic is expensive no matter where. You can't shop around for that. It's going to cost you money. It is.
Paid up front.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. And the best thing I always tell people, you got to have all this done before you get the pet, or when you get the pet, before it's a problem. Find those.
Yeah.
And I have people that don't like my style of medicine. Don't like me. That's fine. Maybe when I was younger, I took it a little personal, but I am who I am. I'll tell you up front, I'm honest with you. I'll tell you what I think. So people appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And I have clients drive 3-4 hours to come see me specifically for what I do. And that's why I think you got to do that research. Yeah. I mean, if you have the vet that's not as experienced, but they're willing to make a phone call, I think that's a hell of a lot better than someone who's not experienced and just will treat it anyway.
Correct.
And vitamin B is good. I said vitamin B. It's a joke we always do, but it's not the only drug out there.
Well, I was going to ask you.
Not everything is cured by that.
What is easier for you? The person bringing an animal who it's their first pet and they don't know any better and they're bringing it to you, or the person that's been keeping that species for 20 years and brings it to you? Who's usually easier to work with? Because I in my head, I think I know who's easier to work with.
In my mind, I think I know who it is.
I like both because I have a total different exam experience. Because
That makes sense.
And like I said, that's what makes the reptile specialty unique, because like I said, all of us are herp nerds. So we breed our own stuff. We have our own stuff at the house. Yeah. So when I have that first time pet owner who has no clue what's going on, that's where I sit down, I grab a sheet of paper, and we start drawing an enclosure. We take what picture they have, we go through the basics, we really try to cover that part of it, and I try to teach. Like I said, I'll spend a half hour teaching. My techs are grabbing me out of the room. All right, you've been in there for an hour. Come on, get out of there. We got to go to the next one type thing. But I really try to approach it that way. And sometimes it's like you see the light bulbs go on sometimes in their brain. They're like, well, we were told something completely different. And it's just like this knowledge base that hits. And that's what I live for that client, is when they see that change. And on the recheck, when they do those changes, the animal's getting better because they fix the environment. So that's what that client is good for. And that's where you really get the response and the really, that's what I live for that too. Now the breeder side of things, coming in with something completely off the wall, crazy mutations, different species you haven't seen, oddball stuff, one-off species cases. Those are fun because I'll sit there and go, all right, I don't know as much about, I'm trying to think of it, Gallowasp or something that, I've only seen a handful in my career, but they breed them, for example, and they work with them. And I'm going to say, all right, let's talk about the husbandry. You know about the husbandry. Let's talk about it and look and see if we can find something together as a team. Then let's concentrate on the animal. That one's less husbandry, more animal based, because typically that's why they're bringing it in, because it's probably beyond what they've already kind of exhausted in research, because that type of person's already done that work.
You do that.
And that's fine. And that's how I approach it. I approach it from a different angle at that point.
That makes sense.
And I want to learn from them, and they want to learn from me. So that's where that teamwork comes in.
Yeah.
From that standpoint.
I just think that like some reptile people are probably just as bad as livestock people, and that they come in and they really just want, can you just give me the ivermectin or Baytril and let me get out of here? Because like, I'm just going to give it an injection to the stuff that we've been giving it for years. and I'm gonna go from that.
Even though that may not fix the problem.
Well, and then they just want the vet to give them whatever they think is going to fix. I imagine that's a pain in the butt when they come in thinking they know exactly how to fix it before you've ever looked at the animal.
With that being said, though,
What?
I am guilty of going to my doctor and saying, "Hey, I have a sinus infection. I know what's happening in my head. Can you please just give me what I need to make this go away? I'm a teacher. I don't have time for this." So I've done that before for myself.
Just as bad as a horse.
And I don't
person.
have, a doctor in front of my name.
For most horse people, they're taking their horse to a large animal vet who does nothing but horses.
Yeah.
So.
But every horse person I've met, has a bottle of whatever.
Oh yeah.
And a syringe and they're medicated.
Oh, you got ketamine. Yeah.
That being said, that's all stopped. As of next week or the week after, all that's stopping. All that
Really
stuff is being pulled out of the feed stores and stuff. Yeah,
I heard that.
So all that's changing.
That is really gonna be interesting for some of these people that have kept horses for 30, 40 years and
now don't have easy access to things that they've always had access to.
Interesting.
Huh.
Did y'all see the picture of Max taking a picture of a wild ball python?
I did.
Did you see what I asked him?
He sent me a picture of him holding a wild ball python.
I said, "Is this a photo taken by a photographer taking a photograph of a wild ball python?"
He sent me a picture of him holding one. I was like,
awesome.
I apologize. This is the point of our podcast where we kind of all.
Yep.
What do you mean?
I'm looking through the group.
So I do want to
looking through the group and some of the stuff in here.
So I do want to jump back to. We talked about finding the right vet, and I was going to give you a chance to tell folks the places they can go, especially for reptiles. Where they can, we've mentioned it before on the podcast, but where can they go to find a vet that can be trusted, or at least that knows reptile or exotics and stuff like that?
A couple different places. Now I did put on Facebook. I did link a couple websites.
Yes.
One is the Association of Reptile and Amphibian Veterinarians.
Yep.
What that is that's a membership. Now it's not saying that if they belong to an organization, they're automatic reptile guru or a specialist. That just means they belong to that organization. It's like if you join AAA, you're not a good driver, you join AAA. Now, that being said, I know a lot of the members of ARAV, and a lot of them are great reptile vets. And if they're going to spend the money to join the group, theoretically, they have an interest in reptiles. So that's a good place to start. And again, every vet's different. So if we're on a list, you call them up, talk to them, see the clinic. Now wildlife clinics are open now. Not all of them are, but you can go into the clinics, talk to them, get a feel for what kind of medicine they do. Some, is it going to be someone that may not have as much knowledge, but is willing to make some phone calls? Or is it someone that has no knowledge that just wants to make a buck? Yeah. Or is it someone that has a ton of knowledge, but's too busy to see you? Or, where's that? What kind of practice is that? A dog, cat, lizard, ferret, doesn't matter. Same thing. And really try to take the time to do that, which most people don't until it's too late when you have to have that emergency call. But that's the best place to start. Now, there's hundreds of vets on there and all over the country and international as well. So that's a good place to start. I also linked the American Board of Veterinary Practitioners. And that's the group that does the specialty boards for reptile and amphibian medicine. And there also is avian medicine. There's small companion mammal, your ferrets, your guinea pigs, that group. Ferret vet. There's cat vets, dog vets, equine vets, large animal. They're all different groups within that ABVP website that you can look up. But there's only a handful of us in the country that do reptile and amphibian. There's only a couple dozen that are active. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of our specialists pass away in the last couple of years. So we've lost some good vets in this world. But that's a good place to start, at least to see where you can kind of navigate. Then, like I said, emergency clinics. 95% of them don't see exotics.
Yeah.
Some do, some don't, depending on where you live. If you're in a bigger town, there's a good chance. Hell, in San Antonio, most of them don't see exotics unless it happens to be one or two people that's on working that particular night that might see
just
them.
Happens to be on call.
Yeah, that happens to be working that night. So, It's tough, man. I'm not gonna lie, it is tough. So do all that leg work ahead of time, and that'll help.
So yeah, there's definitely places out there, but do your due diligence with finding a vet. We do own animals that are not that common, and they're all reasons why we own them. We like owning the animals that are different, but because of that, they take different care, and there's different parameters that go with owning them, and you got to know that they're not. That's another thing. That there's no such thing as a disposable pet. There's just not. None of them, and that's always bothered me. Like goldfish are the number one things that people look at as disposable pets. I'm like, that's a fish that lives 50 years. And so it's not a disposable pet. And neither is your chameleon that lives for 5 years, especially when you can buy a veiled chameleon for $20 from somebody at a show. And, I will say,
I hope that chameleon lasts more than 5 years. They can live a lot longer than 5 years.
Yeah. I know that some of them like 5 to 9, somewhere in that range. Or I'm hoping that this damn thing lives closer to 8, 9, because
His birthday's coming up.
That's true. Same as yours.
That's right.
Hold on, I'm trying to find where the Ready said something. Oh, so the Ready said, I do feel they used the wrong feel. They used feel like as you were putting dirt in a hole. But anyways, I'll leave them there. I do feel like reptiles in general are a much stronger animal with proper setups than common pets. Here's one thing I would like to get your opinion on. And I've always said this, outside of dogs and cats, when you're talking about like reptiles and a lot of your basically wild animals, even if we're keeping them as pets, I've found in the past they are very good at hiding being sick until it is very late in the process, and that makes it a lot harder. So do you find that, like, especially at a zoo, do you find a lot of these animals are hiding that, and then it makes it a lot harder to bring them back sometimes than it is like when your dog stops eating? You notice your dog stopped eating because you feed it every day, and it's not eating right now.
Mm-hmm. No, it does make it tough because they hide it till the end. A lot of times, and it depends on when they bring it in. If they bring it in when it's, a bearded dragon where you can see every single bone in its body and has no fat, no muscle, and it's just literally or a skeleton with skin around it, I can't fix those.
Yeah.
But that animal didn't get that way overnight.
Yeah, that wasn't an overnight thing. Yeah, that was.
And that's a lot of it is just the education part. Unfortunately, it starts at the shows, the reptile stores, the breeders, all the different areas where that it starts with, and that's the education part. So you got to get them started out right, and it's hard. If there was a magic way of making it all work, we'd already figured it out by now.
As a breeder, I feel like that's our job as breeders to sell these animals to shows to inform them, and the general public, and we do it too. We go to Facebook for a lot of information, right? And it's not the best place, especially for animal care, because you're going to find every single different answer out there, and like 5% of them are probably the right answer. And we live in a world where the loudest person is the right person, not the right person is the right person. And so as a breeder, you have that moment, that connection to talk to them and get them as much information as possible before they go home and join ball pythons, whatever, on Facebook. You have that chance to go, look, I need to be your contact. If you have any trouble, contact me, talk to me. And I think a lot of people do good at that. Another thing in our hobby is a lot of people in our hobby are not people, right? That is one reason we like these weird animals, because they are odd, they are different. And maybe a lot of our people in this hobby don't handle talking to the general public very well. But if you're going to be breeding an animal, you've got to figure that out, or you've got to at least be able to give them a place to go to, someone you trust that can do that, because there's a lot of information out there and a lot of it is wrong. Especially as a vet, you see that all the time. Someone coming in telling you what is wrong with their animal, and you're like, that's not what's wrong with your animal.
Yep. No, I see it all the time. So it's the education part that's super critical.
It's tricky, but if you sell an animal of any sort, like I went into a pet store earlier to buy crickets for our chameleon. I was looking at the reptiles, and they had like 5 bearded dragons for sale in different cages, and they had just like dried pellet food, and they like this. And I went and looked on the shelf, and it's sold as a bearded dragon food. It looks like guinea pig food basically, and it looks like it's definitely dried grasses is all it is. And I'm thinking, someone's gonna walk and see this in this store, buy this bearded dragon, and they're gonna go, oh, I can feed it the stuff off the shelf. I'm like, you just hope when they sell that animal, someone goes, get it fresh greens, feed it insects, And don't feed it the shit that we're putting in the cage that it should not be
Well, look at the
eating.
one I have. She bought it at a big box pet store.
Yeah.
And they told her you could feed it freeze-dried crickets, and that's it for its whole life. And she had him for a year and a half. Had her. Thought it was a male the whole time. His name was like Reptile or some shit. And,
Hey, Reptiles from the Rugrats.
Whatever. And yeah, she's like, "Here's this food," and I'm like,
No, it's not.
this is it. And I was like, "Okay, thanks." And I just set it back in her car. She's like, "You're not going to take his food?" Yeah, I'm not going to feed him that. Thanks.
And so that's a problem. That is definitely a problem. As someone who's also worked in a big box pet store, I worked at PetSmart, and not everybody's like me, and I know that. I worked with a lot of people that were not like me, and there's no one else that worked there when I worked there I would trust to tell people reptile care or animal care for that matter. Like I worked there after being a zookeeper and keeping reptiles at that point for 10 years. But those big box retail stores, they hire people. They don't hire animal people. They hire people.
Right.
And even if sometimes they hire quote unquote an animal person, that quote unquote animal person may not be doing things right and not have the right information. So it is important as a breeder, if you do shows, if you vend shows, and people come by, talk to people, because they may never have talked to a real reptile person or a real breeder or someone who's really taking care
A
of it.
real person.
Well, they've talked to the Facebook world, which fuck, we know the Facebook world is not real people. They've talked to the person at PetSmart or that their local pet store who knows how to sell animals but doesn't really know how to take care of animals. You got to be that person for them. So, anyways, that's my soapbox. Get off my soapbox.
Yeah.
There were a few things in the chat I wanted to talk
I've
about.
climbed the stairs entirely too many times tonight because of our dog.
So the Reddies posted this earlier. I didn't bring it up, but I wanted to bring it up. The Dallas World Aquarium, which is an awesome place. If anybody's never been to the Dallas World Aquarium in Dallas, Texas, it is a really, really nice aquarium. And it's kind of feels wrong to call it just an aquarium.
I was just about to say that.
It's basically an indoor zoo with just a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go to Reptilandia.
Oh, I'm waiting until they finish the new building.
I've already been there. It's phenomenal.
We talked about that, I think it was last week or the week before. There was a picture of Ari like painting a tree, and it's hard to explain. The tree is fucking huge. It's like it's the size of a real tree in this exhibit. I can't wait to go see it, but we are holding out until the new building's open.
It's awesome. I mean, it's been a couple months since I've been there, so they were still hadn't put the gun on the trees yet. But I saw the metal forms for it, and it's incredible.
The size of those enclosures dwarf anything most zoos are doing.
I mean, all the window frames are all like steel. So I mean, it's not going to fall down in a tornado, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. But but the Reddies said, going back to the Dallas World Aquarium, they now have one of their Ambanja chameleons, panther chameleons, on exhibit there, or at least there. It may not be on exhibit yet, but it will be
on display as of this weekend.
There you go.
And
awesome.
Then
Pia
Bartolini was in here earlier. She's not here now, but she said awesome interview from Dr. Rob on. She wished she could say, but she had a rhino procedure in the morning.
She's gonna have to listen to the recording tomorrow because she's got to head in early.
Great flex, Pia.
Way to go, Pia. That's another place.
Yeah, I've known Pia for a few years, so yeah.
Is she a vet?
She's a
vet tech
at Animal Kingdom.
Yeah. Her drive from home is fucking long.
Yeah.
They don't live anywhere near.
They don't live. Yeah.
They live in the middle of fucking nowhere, Florida. Yeah.
Yes.
Their place is amazing too. If anybody gets a chance to go out and check out, I can't remember the name of their place. They got a name for it.
They have a specific name.
Look up Cody Bartolini, you'll find it. But their animals and their setups out there are amazing as well. What?
Have you guys seen this hog nose that our friend Nick Markham hatched out?
No.
It's half, not like front back, half lavender and half caramel.
Oh, so it's a chimera.
Like right down the middle.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, got like a stripe down the middle, and it's two completely different snakes.
Yeah, chimeras are weird ass animals.
That's crazy looking, man.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to see. There's some. Oh, the Reddies also asked, do zoos introduce wild caught stuff? And we talked about breeding projects earlier. How often do they introduce wild caught stuff to change the blood in some of these like SSP programs, stuff like that?
Depends on the program. There are some of that as well. Of course, nowadays everything's all regulated, CITES and paperwork, and can't get anything out of this country or that country. So there's always that type of aspect to everything. But we do bring in some wild caught animals just because we need to get some infusion of some new genetics. So that does happen, be it mammals to birds to reptiles, amphibian.
There's an unhappy cat who is not getting attention.
My daughter's at practice, so he's hungry.
That's so funny.
Mine does that at 2 a.m, standing on my chest.
Yeah.
Mine does. Oh wait, I don't have a cat.
Yeah.
There was a dog at the beach today, the people that were not far from us, and she had her own little like place that she could chill in the shade and on a towel. And I guess the guy that was there with her like walked over to the water to like wash his feet off. You would have thought that someone was sawing off her leg. She was whining so bad because he walked 30 feet away from her and did not take her with him. I was like, oh my goodness.
So I wanted to go through so Chris Eaton complained last week when we had him on because I don't show the stuff on the screen that we're talking about. So I've got it this week, Chris. I'm going to show it, and we're going to go through the stuff that was posted over on our group. There it is on the screen. Everybody can see it. I can't figure out how to get rid of the stupid admin bar on the side. It annoys the crap out of me. But so did you ever actually read all this article, Katie, about the albino?
We talked about it some last week.
That's not really albino, it's just faded.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it was about alligator salmon turtles.
They're saying that one of the reasons they think it fades is because it could possibly have the gene in there, but that it's not dominant enough to make the whole thing albino.
Well, it doesn't make sense if
It
albino
doesn't
works as
make
a recessive
at
gene.
all. And I need you or Travis Wyman to read it.
I'll look at it later. We talked about Komodos earlier. I don't know if this is going to show it or not. Maybe I'll show it. Oh, there it is. There's a Komodo eating a bat.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. There's one earlier, I think it got posted last week or the week before, of it eating a goat. Did you see that one?
I don't know.
And maybe it ate like a small like goat in like 2 swallows.
That bat is huge.
Yeah, it doesn't stand a chance against the Komodo dragon, though.
Man.
Brandon Peace posted that one. I just love Komodo dragon eating videos. I posted this one. It was a melanistic spoonbill, or paddlefish, or there's other goofy names out there
I
for
thought
them.
a spoonbill was a bird.
They call them, it is, but they also call these spoonbills.
Oh, okay.
It's a paddlefish.
I was very confused when you said spoonbill. I'm like, that is a fish.
It's a paddlefish.
In that picture.
But it's a
That is
melanistic.
not a bird.
It's a melanistic paddlefish.
I may be tired, but I am not that tired.
This is the one in Louisiana where people will catch it and they go, yeah, I caught this. And you're like, it's illegal. Like, well, you can keep one. If you can catch it in the mouth and you most likely didn't catch it in the mouth, you snag the damn thing because they don't bite stuff because they're filter feeders.
Right.
This one, you posted this one, Robert. A farmer who fell into an enclosure of 40 crocodiles and was killed.
Yes, and consumed.
Oh.
He was in like Laos or Vietnam.
Yeah. Watch your step. Maybe put up a guardrail.
But his family was like, he was like in his 80s or something. And
he was going to die.
And his family was like, he loved the crocodile so much, so if he was going to go, that's the way he wanted to go.
Fuck that.
I'm
Oh
like,
my-
did he really just fought?
Oh my god.
Is there an insurance?
Yeah.
Dang.
Or did he just say, oh, well, look, I think I'm done?
Fuck that. Look, I love reptiles. I don't want to be eaten by them.
Hell no.
I don't want to be ripped apart
Look, if I had
alive.
to go by a reptile, I want to get constricted by a big snake because they give you a heart attack or a stroke very quickly and it's over.
Yeah.
I don't want to die from an envenomation, super slow, and I don't want to get ripped apart by crocodiles.
Oh.
So we always make fun of the firemen save cats.
Mm-hmm.
These firemen saved a bearded dragon from
Yes.
the roof of this building.
It got on the roof of the building. I saw that.
Hey, that's awesome though.
That
I mean,
is-
I do think it's great that they went and they did it. I do. I think that's pretty fabulous.
okay. So the title of this one, this got posted as because of the comment section, but it's courageous dog gives birth to 7 puppies after surviving rattlesnake bite. And one of the comments was, "What do you mean courageous? She didn't have an option. She was going to get birth. That's
right.
Yeah.
She didn't choose." Like,
It's like every time I see the dog saves owner from snake bite. The dog just got bit first.
Yeah.
They were walking along and the dog went, "What's that?" and stuck its nose down there and
Yeah.
got bit. Yeah.
Another thing, if no one saw it, go and check our Reptile Gumbo podcast discussion group. Erica McVeigh from VivTech posted a question on there. She was wondering, when setting up tech pieces like cameras, sensors, the stuff that VivTech carries, do you prefer written instructions with the item, a barcode that takes you to a written instruction and a video, or a video instruction on like YouTube or something like that. And I was like all the above. I do like a paper version of instructions on equipment, whether there's like a thermostat or some of the stuff like VivTech. But being able to go watch a video also, I like that. Also.
So I commented as well, and I said, as long as I have instructions, I don't care if they're a paper version or if they're scan this barcode and see instructions on your phone. I'm okay with either one. And when the operator is not smart enough to figure out the technology, at that point, the videos are helpful because that happens to me more often than I care to admit.
What about you? What would you prefer? Would you prefer a video or instructions? Oh, the problem is that I'm on screen, so no one knows when anybody's talking to each other.
I know.
Wait for it. See, Chris has the problem with this. So, Dr. Rob, what would you prefer?
I'm still old school. I like a little written, but I've also gone to figure out how to do shit on YouTube too. So I'll take both.
Yeah.
See, I like written. I'm not a fan of instructions on my phone just because I like to be able to see all of it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate having to flip through that. So I'd rather watch a video or read the instructions on paper. That's why someone commented in the thing also. I hate going to restaurants now and having to pull the damn menu up on my phone.
Oh, I do dislike that. I do dislike that a lot.
I want the whole
that
thing.
Makes me feel old, but I do I want to hold the menu in my hands and figure out what I want.
So if anybody hasn't gone, go over, comment, let Erica know what you prefer. I would imagine this is for as they are moving farther with VivTech, what they would like to do. So go give your 2 cents on that one. And while you're over there doing that, then go over to VivTech and use code Gumbo22 and save 15% on your next VivTech order. Just go ahead and do that as well.
I like that little segue. Good job there.
Gotta make that money somehow.
You just don't want to lose the spot of one of their best. What was it she said?
We're one of their best. It's not sponsor.
It's not a sponsor.
I forget what it's called.
I do too.
But go use our code, people. Please, I'm begging you.
He likes having the title of one of the best.
Here's another one Nathan Holcomb posted was a leucistic copperhead, possibly. That was kind of cool. Did you see that one, Robert?
I did. Wait, which one?
This one right here.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so this was funny. I posted this. So the spiky tail on the back of a Stegosaurus didn't technically have a name until it was written about in a Far Side comic. It says in the comic, if you can see, it says, now this end is called the Thagomizer after the late Thag Simmons. And then scientists saw that and just decided, that's the name of it now. And that's what they call it.
That's hilarious.
The spiky tail on the back of the Stegosaurus is the Thagomizer.
Figured it was a spiky tail.
From a cartoon. Why does
a tail need a specific name?
Everything needs a name. It's science. We name everything.
Okay.
And apparently cartoonists name it for us sometimes.
Hey, that's cool.
So if anybody's ever wondering what the spiky end of the tail, it's the Thagomizer, and it's named after a cartoon. There was also this super melanistic canebrake. You see this picture of?
Oh, yeah.
That is really
It's
pretty.
been in literally every reptile group.
Has it?
Yeah.
See, you just don't need to be in a part of a lot of reptile groups, and then you're not surprised when you see stuff on
lots of
Arcus.
people arguing over what it is.
So,
Don't know what they're talking about.
What were their arguments?
Oh, that's a copperhead. That's a corn snake. That's a.
Okay, so Darren Watson just posted. He said, if the internet is down, then you're screwed. And that is a very fair point to make with those barcodes with instructions.
Oh, yeah. I
never actually thought about that. If you
live in this area and go to Pearland to go eat and your phone doesn't work half the time,
then you can't open it. So, Darren, that's a very good point. You should definitely make that post so Erica sees that. I may have to go back and adjust mine. But that's a fair point.
So we got to go herping the other night, Robert. We took our kids herping.
We did.
We went road cruising. We found
It was a beautiful night. I sat on the couch in silence the whole time y'all were gone.
We found a live broadband water snake and unfortunately a dead broadband water snake. We found a live cottonmouth and unfortunately a dead cottonmouth. And the cottonmouth, for some reason, didn't chase us still. We still have yet to find one to chase us.
Yeah, they're all broken.
We have tried. It literally took off the opposite direction from us to get away from us.
I don't know about Logan, but I know our kid had a great time. She was texting me from the car. This is so much fun. I'm glad I got to go.
So it's funny because she didn't tell us that while we were in the car.
Oh my gosh. She was blowing up my phone. She was having fun. So like I said, I don't know. She probably sat in the back and just sat there.
She did.
With a straight face.
She got out when we
She's
saw the snakes.
preteen angst, but
We saw a great horned owl up in a tree.
I
we
heard
saw
all about the whole trip.
Some deer.
She had a great time.
We saw some rabbits.
Can't wait to go again. We saw a crap ton of rabbits.
Oh, I have the best story. Okay,
At the zoo.
It's a zoo story. So we were at the zoo yesterday. Robert, you'll love this. There were it was a hornbill exhibit. Everybody's never seen a hornbill. It's a big ass bird, big funny beak, huge bird. Outside the exhibit, the Houston Zoo has a shit ton of
Wild
rabbits everywhere.
Tons.
Outside was a larger rabbit, and what we assumed possibly could have been its baby, but it was already like hopping around, covered in fur, but it was
Doing
small.
its own thing. It
Small.
was small.
It hopped into the exhibit with the bongo, which is a big hoofstock, and the hornbills. And then the hornbill saw it.
Hornbills are carnivores.
And that hornbill ran after it.
I've never seen a hornbill move this quick.
And that rabbit got out of the fence just before the hornbill could grab it and swallow it whole. We were about to watch National Geographic at the zoo. And I'm not going to lie, I was rooting for the hornbill.
And
Yeah, I
so
always root for
he
the
was
predator.
super getting excited. My 7-year-old nephew was like, "What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?"
I can see James going, oh, look.
Uh, there were several
And
of
that's
us-
what he was.
there were several of us
Josephine,
watching
our
it.
12-year-old was doing it. There was some random guy that was like, "Man, I thought he was gonna get it." And James was like, "Me too."
Enrichment for those zoo people out there.
Oh,
That is just
my
what we call
stars.
enrichment.
It was.
It's like I've told that story on here before where
crazy.
I was like cleaning the tortoise yard. Someone goes, "There's a peacock in the lion exhibit." Okay.
Not for long.
Like, are you going to go get it? Nope. That is the lion's peacock.
Yeah.
Our friend that has crocodiles he told us about he'll go out some mornings and there'll just be like a raccoon foot and some guts hanging on the fence.
Oh
It'll
no.
get a little too close to his Nile croc. And he said he's actually seen his Nile croc like leave food on the edge of the water and then sit there and wait.
No.
Well, there's alligators.
Also, for a
They've-
raccoon to come in his enclosure.
No.
They've seen alligators in the Everglades put sticks on the front of their nose and just sit there and wait for like egrets and stuff to come get the sticks for their nest and then eat the egret.
No way.
Oh yeah, they're
That's
super.
wicked.
They're super smart predators. We just, as humans, we can't. A lot of humans can't conceive the idea that animals can also be intelligent.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
But especially when it comes to like something like reptiles, because we think they couldn't be smart, except they've been on Earth for hundreds of millions of years. That they can't be stupid.
How could they be on Earth hundreds of million years and the planet's like 2,000 years old?
2023 years. That's how
Yes.
old it is when time started. Oh look, there's Erica McVeigh. She's in. You are late to the party. We mentioned you,
We already
Erica.
talked about you a whole bunch. Your ears must have been burning.
Hi, Erica.
She was another one that was excited that you were on.
Mhm.
Well, I've known her for quite a while too. So
That's awesome. So, Erica, while you're on here, Darren actually had a very good point. If the internet is down, then the barcode for instructions may not work as well. So, fair point.
So don't only send that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think all the above. If you do all the above, it's great.
Yeah.
I will say that I got to install one of their light bases the other day.
Yeah.
And that thing is robust.
Yeah.
It's very well made, very, like, I liked it a lot.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's like a ceramic light fixture or
It's a
something.
ceramic fixture with a metal base and it has multiple screw holes for mounting options.
Oh, nice.
That's
It's fully
awesome.
articulated.
Oh wow.
It's very stiff. So like when you move it, that's where it's going to stay.
Did you use your dongle to hide the wires?
Didn't need to.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was going in a 40-degreer. So I was able to put it right by where so the wire could just go right out.
Nice.
So it was that one Paul bought at
Oh yeah.
he brought it to
So
the shop,
anybody listening,
last week.
you can go buy that on Vivtech's website and use code Gumbo22 to save 15% on the light base. I'm gonna keep throwing that out there because Eric said Gen A and Gen and Z gonna need embrace analog. Yes, analog works sometimes.
I agree.
Remember the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. That's all you gotta do.
You were making fun of me the other day because I was reading a book on my phone.
Well, because you were the person when Kindles first came out. They're like, I would never do that. I
That
want to
was
hold.
15 years ago.
She was like, I want to hold an actual book in my
I
hand
do.
and feel the paper.
But sometimes I read books that are not appropriate for the rest of the world to see, and they don't need to
Adult
know that
porn.
I'm reading
We got it. Adult-
trashy smut.
Adult porn. We got it.
I like listening to books now.
I just like collecting them. They just sit back there and
That is a
get
fact.
dust.
Well, I'm in my truck so much
Yeah.
that I will listen to a book that's 35 or 40 hours long in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, that might be changing here pretty soon, though. I won't be
That-
driving 30 minutes each way.
that is true. You wanna talk about that?
Not yet,
Okay.
because I haven't told Todd and he's in here. I guess I'll tell him now.
Okay.
Looks like I'm moving the shop to 0.7 miles from my house.
You could shoot a bullet and hit if it was clean wide open.
I could literally could fly my drone.
I was gonna say,
Shoot
could
it.
you
I thought
fly your
I thought that the other day
drone
because we drove out to where it is, I was like,
Yeah.
you could just put a drone up in the air and drop it off at your house. And
Some guy posted Sunday morning that he had the shop space for lease, and
It
so
looks
I
really
messaged him
awesome.
and I just to see how much it was and where exactly it was, because where he said it was near my house, and he said, "Where do you live?" And I told him, he goes, "It's literally across the street from me," and he sends me the address, and I look and it's 0.7 miles. It's 3 minutes from my house.
Yep.
Which is crazy to go in less than a mile. It takes 3 minutes, but
I know.
so I went over there, looked at it that day, and we went ahead and did the application and everything. He approved it today. So
yeah, for anyone that lives around this area, to drive through Houston, you're going to have to hit tolls, and toll roads get
I
expensive.
spend over $300 a month in tolls, probably another $150 in fuel just going back and forth.
And
to the
food,
shop. Because it's
because
27 miles to the shop each way.
Yeah.
3 tolls each way. So that's going to be. This one is a little bit more expensive, but it's still going to cost me less in the long run.
100%.
And it's double what I have now.
Yeah.
It's double the.
and I can come
expense
just
I have.
visit now. I don't have to drive into Houston to find you.
Yeah. Yes. Unfortunately, Todd, who was in the chat, I don't know if he still is, he's already like 25, 30 minutes from my shop, and now it's like 25 or 30 more minutes. So,
Yeah. That sucks.
yeah.
Sorry, Todd.
So,
That's what you get for having ball pythons.
but it's going to be, I'm not looking forward to actually moving.
No one likes
I have
moving.
A lot of shit. I've been in that shop 3 years now. and
It's a lot of
I have
shit in there.
A lot of stuff in there.
Well,
So-
you know what? Maybe we can work out a deal where if you want to come help me move classrooms down the hallway, I can come help you move shop stuff.
So we're friends. We should just help one another. Actually, I talked to Matt's kid, Nate.
Yeah.
He just graduated, and then Colby today. They're going to come help, and then if you can, John. And
Yeah.
I've had a
Yeah,
couple other people,
absolutely.
I will try. This is my
Right.
busiest summer, but
Right.
I decided not to have a summer vacation this year
Yeah.
and work. Erica asks, Dr. Rob, have you ever attempted acupuncture on chameleons?
I have a couple times, not very often. Mostly it's just been a little bit of acupuncture where I will inject a little bit of B12 because they're so tiny, the needles don't stay in very well.
Yeah.
So I'll just take an insulin syringe and actually inject it into the points.
Just thinking needles
So
into a
crazy.
small little thin
You
skin.
know, I'm gonna have
chameleon.
to Google animal acupuncture now and
It's a thing.
go down.
I mean,
that
obviously it's a
rabbit
thing, but
hole.
it's been a thing.
It's crazy.
All right, now I got pictures here somewhere.
I don't even understand why people do acupuncture. Like, I get the benefits, but the whole process freaks me out.
I have a horrible pain threshold, so it's the whole process scares the crap out of me.
I actually had someone recommend it one time for my headaches, and I was like,
I'll stab you in the head.
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm
I'll do it
just
for
gonna
free.
Make you rub my shoulders. That's all.
We'll take some of your sewing needles and just poke them into your temples.
No,
It's got to be the same thing.
no.
It's identical.
I don't trust you.
It's the Dollar General version.
I will stab you in your throat if you come at me with my sewing needles.
I'm just trying to help you.
And our listeners will back me
Help
because
me.
they love me more.
Help me help you.
Oh goodness.
So I do want to ask, I meant to ask earlier, what is, if you had to give like one story, most interesting story you've had being a vet at a zoo, and you're like, and you did it and you're like, this is really cool, or this is the weirdest thing, what would it be?
Oh wow, the one thing that's
Your
tough.
favorite memory.
One where like, what's the weirdest thing you've done? Because I know as someone at a zoo, you get what's the weirdest thing you've done or seen?
Yeah, I've done a lot of shit over the years. Probably the one I always default to because I always default to it because it's like my second or third day at the job at San Antonio. Ended up doing a C-section on a 3-banded armadillo.
Oh my
I
god.
think it might have been maybe it was my second day of work here. So that was like
Wow.
21 years ago.
Armadillo.
So
I'm like trying to imagine this in my head. Oh my goodness.
yeah, it was just absolutely crazy the way to start my career. So yeah.
So what drives someone? I guess it's just laying there in labor forever, and they're just like, we've got to do something now.
Yep. I mean, she was in labor, the blood discharge, nothing happening. The baby did ultrasound, baby's still alive, but she's due. So we took it out.
Wow.
So weird. How many babies?
She only had one.
Only one. Okay.
I know it's been 21 years now.
He has slept since then, James. He does not
That's-
remember.
That is true. Man, C-section. She's wait. Now the next time it's like C-section on a house mouse.
I have actually spaded one of those little tiny little dwarf hamsters. I actually spayed one.
Have you ever
Wait.
shaved a tarantula?
Only thing I've done with tarantulas mostly is repair limbs when they get broken.
Well, Katie,
Or-
Whoa! You repaired like
Well,
you
they
sewed
break
their
it.
arm back on?
Well, I mean, mostly it's just like put a little stitch and just tie off the end with the stump. And then
Okay,
it's
that's super
back.
cool.
well, Katie tortured a tarantula.
I did
when
not
she was in
torture
middle
a
school.
tarantula. He was intubated. Not intubated. There was
They
no
stuck
tube.
a tube down his throat.
No, there was no tube. He was put under general anesthesia. And then we
Did they
shaved
put
his
it over
legs.
his nose?
We actually put the whole nose tube for a Labrador over the top of the whole tarantula, and because the vet was unsure how much to give the
I'm
tarantula,
not saying that's the part where you
You
torture.
We
just
would-
gave him the beans.
well,
and
no,
said,
we picked it up, and then like when we would go close to the tarantula with like a scalpel, like or pointer tool or whatever, if the tarantula reacted, we just put it back over the tarantula because he obviously didn't have enough. Because halfway through the procedure, he started to wake up again, so they had to give him a little bit more.
But that's not the part I'm talking about where you tortured him.
So my science fair project when I was in the 8th grade. Now, granted, it's been 19 years since I've graduated high school, so this was 24 years ago. 23 years ago. I built a 2-foot by 2-foot maze, trained it to get its food at the end of the maze, and would time how long it took it to get through the maze. And then we took it to a local vet that was a friend of the family, and we shaved the front 4 legs on the tarantula, and I proved that without those legs, the tarantula basically
Torture.
just backs into a corner and doesn't do anything
Tortured.
because they use all the little hairs on the front of their leg to be able to find their way around.
That's fucking horrible.
Luckily, crickets are
Did you make sure that any makeup you buy was tested on
it
animals
all
first?
it all grew back. The hair all grew back.
I get it, but that's
Um,
like I'm just gonna poke you in the eye so you can't see what the fuck you're doing. And then watch you try and do it.
Because
Yeah, I'll
crickets,
get better eventually.
I took in a university lab.
crickets are really stupid. And if you take the tarantula's hide out of the cage, then the crickets think the hide is actually the shadow caused by the tarantula. So it would go hide underneath the tarantula, and that's how the tarantula would eat.
That's not what he wanted to do.
No.
That's funny.
And then
I'm
when
looking at
the
completely different.
when the project was done, it went to live with my 4th grade teacher.
Who
That was how I got.
was a
into
better
the
person
tarantula,
because they never
because
shaved
I
his
had a
legs.
tarantula when I was in 4th grade. Yeah, Herman ended up being Henrietta because I was wrong and it was a girl. But I went to state with that project. Thank you very much.
I did a Knowles, but my thing was feeding them. I never tortured them.
We couldn't use animals with a backbone.
You probably can't do it anymore. Now you can't even use animals anymore.
No,
It's like they don't
Joe
want-
could. Joe used isopods.
Well, that's true. We do isopods because they don't think of them as real animals. So we can.
Our daughter did her STEM project on isopods.
I can't believe you tortured them.
I did not torture a
Tarantula.
tarantula, y'all.
All right.
That's
Fucking hey. You think you know someone? Anyways,
Fucking Rob, this has been so much fun. Thank
has
you
been
so
awesome.
much for coming on.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey,
Well,
anytime you need me, just give me a call.
Well, and I think what makes it even cooler is that you reached out to us.
Well, he came up to me at the Austin show. And said,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm Dr. Rob. I'd like to be on y'all's show." And I was like, "Let me text James." And I told James who it was. James was like, "Fuck yeah, get his number."
I love it. I love
And then I
that.
took him over to Lee and Amanda, and
I got
And I
a
had
text and a
nothing-
picture.
I had no input in that conversation
Yeah.
because there was nothing going on that I knew anything about. So I just walked back to my.
so we need to take a podcast field trip to San Antonio Zoo.
I agree.
Done. I haven't been in years. I would
It's been a
love to
long
go
time since
back.
I've been there. As long as I don't have to go see the fucking
They
Alamo,
might
I'm good.
reciprocate with our Houston Zoo membership too.
I just don't want to see the
Yeah.
Alamo. I hate seeing that thing when I go there. I'm like, why?
It's so twisted.
It was so little.
It's in the middle of the town. It's like every time I go there, I'm like, why? Why is this a thing? I even heard people last time when I was up here, people going, it looks much smaller than I thought. Well, no shit. It's surrounded by skyscrapers. What were you?
It's so funny.
It's across
Check
from
out
Rip. What?
Just check out the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my dad said, don't blink, you'll miss it. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I guarantee people have driven past it and didn't realize they were driving past the Alamo.
I'm sure.
I'd rather go to the San Antonio Zoo.
So, Dr. Rob, if people want to get a hold of you, do you want them to get a hold of you?
Well, I already replied back to the whole thing about where the websites are, so they already see me on Facebook, so they're already
love it.
finding me. So
They already found you.
so I'll reply back as I can time wise. But
There you go.
He's a
or if
busy
they
man
have
with an actual job.
if they have a vet that has questions, or I definitely take consults all the time. from
That's
different
really
vets
cool.
If they have any questions or concerns, so they can always reach out that way.
Sounds good. If you need a rack, lsreptileracks.com. Place your order. Email Robert. He'll get back to you when he can.
Come see us at Conroe. All of us will be at Conroe. Come see Robert at any show except for Oklahoma.
Come to Lake Charles on Saturday. We'll be there.
We'll be hanging out at the show. Like, come to Lake Charles anyways. Come check out
You
the
guys
show.
are just going to drive over Saturday morning and drive back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's what?
Joe and I are going to see Wicked at the
2
Hobby
hours.
Center
It's
on Sunday.
About 2 hours, 2.5 hours from here.
Oh yeah,
It's
an
like 2
easy
hours
drive.
and 5 minutes from my shop.
Yeah, it's the half. It's
I could just hear Chris listen to this going, "Oh, y'all are so gross." Say 2 hours is an
Yeah.
easy drive.
yeah. It's the halfway point where I meet Mom and Cameron when we swap off.
Well, we
kids.
could stop in
We'll.
Beaumont and eat it.
You shut your mouth because I can't.
Ooh, we may do that.
Well, I might be able to do it on Sunday.
I'll send
Jay
you
Wilson's.
Jay Wilson's. I may send you a picture of me eating at Jay Wilson's.
Okay, now we're like making.
My dad was like, bypass Beaumont. Yeah, but
No,
there's good food
There's
there.
good food in Beaumont.
Yeah.
The driving through it does suck, but there is food there if you stop.
It all depends on how the show goes.
Yeah.
Whether or not
If you make money to
I
eat at Jay
mean,
Wilson's.
Jay Wilson's or I mean, then McDonald's. I don't know. McDonald's is getting expensive now too.
No joke. Everything is
The Readies will be in Conroe.
cool.
Do I have something? I feel like we bought something else. Oh no, I did buy something
we
else.
did buy Amanda. He brought
Amanda, I
some-
got something else for you. I gotta give it to you in Conroe.
Yeah. He's starting to buy his girlfriend more toys and things than his wife.
Don't call it toys. It sounds dirty when you say that.
Okay, not like that. Oh my
God.
god, James.
You're the one that said it.
She's literally.
But
turning
we
around.
all know when I say things like
Look,
that,
she
I
matches her
don't mean
headphones.
it in that context.
I live with you. And
I
that's
hate
not
you
always
all. I hate you all. On that note.
true. Again, if you want to save 15% on your VivTech order, it's code Gumbo22. If you want to reach out to us, I'm just trying to make our money here. Okay, guys, make some money. If you for toys, gotta buy more toys.
Father-in-law in the chat.
He knows. It's okay.
Anyways, you can reach us.
Your brother's in the next room.
I know.
Our daughter's on the next. You can reach us at the Reptile Gumbo Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and at gmail.com. We will be back next week with somebody. It's Katie's turn to find a guest.
I've got two I'm reaching out to tonight.
Robert got this one.
I know. I've got
You
to
got-
start
My
pulling my
yearly
own
quota
weight.
is full,
Robert got one.
and he found me.
I know. I was
That's
saying, you
true.
didn't even have to work hard for that. Come on.
I was processed with elimination. I was the only one there.
Only one there.
You guys were on the way.
Sam said we get toy makers. Anyways, thanks for coming on. If you'll hang out for a second, Dr. Rob, say bye to everybody. Good night. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening, watching. Bye-bye.